So there are a number of things which are happening, but most important of all, we will also talk about Mera Paibis stopping the convoy of armed forces, burning of the armed forces trucks. How has that happened? Why is that happening? We are going to have a look into it. Now, we also have visuals of Kukizo community in Kangpoki district, which did a massive protest for separate administration. So the peace was lull in the storm. The sort of violence which happened, the More violence happened, the other violence happened. Why has that happened?
Well, Karthikeya, violence is an ongoing process as far as state of Manipur is concerned. There is lull, of course, but then after every 2 or 3 days, there are a couple of incidents of sporadic violence, which again shatters the claim of the government that all is well, or at least things are limping back to normalcy. Things are limping, but definitely not back to normalcy. The situation is very grim on the ground. As our reporter showed yesterday with his ground reports and all, as to how people who are lawyers, people who are students and in other professions are leaving their professions and joining as guards to guard their territory. This is both in the hills as well as in the valley. There are people, students can't go to school. People have to, grow their crops and sow their crops in with police security. So everything is that can go wrong has gone wrong in the state of Manipur. And I think the government, while it claims that they are trying to reach out to both the Kuki as well as meitei communities in order to ensure that the peace process returns, but the reality is that that they have to do a lot more, Karthikeya, before things even start looking towards normalcy. Forget limping back to normalcy.
Let us play out a ground report of the interview, first with the BJP MLA Wungu Jagin Volte, who was attacked by an angry mob in Imphal. Let's play out this interview, a part of this interview.
आप कुछ कहना चाहते हैं? Would you like to say something? कोई एक अपनी बात.
I want peace.
I want peace. You say I want peace.
People are safe.
Not safe.
Not safe.
I like it to be safe.
He told my people are not safe. I like them to be safe.
नेता रहे हैं, लोगों के बीच में आपकी अपनी एक पहचान रही है. आप कोई मैसेज देना चाहते हैं? And one more message.
One message is the public should be safe.
He said that the public should be safe.
Public should be safe. Okay.
As a being leader, I am not safe. I like to be safe.
As on being the leader, I'm not safe. I like to be safe. He said.
And let us play other bites and visuals that have come from Manipur.
ठीक मेरे बाएं तरफ आप देख सकते हैं यहाँ पर बाकायदा पुलिस ने अपना एक बंकर बनाया हुआ है, बड़ी संख्या में और पुलिस बल तैनात है और चारों तरफ आपको यहाँ धान के खेत दिखाई देंगे, जहाँ पर ये जो किसान है बिष्णुपुरा इलाके के, वो यहाँ पर अपने खेतों के अंदर खेती करने आते हैं। लेकिन ये जो खेती है इन धान के खेत में, वो दरअसल पुलिस के साए में हो रही है, यानी कि पुलिस सुरक्षा के साए में की जा रही है। ठीक सामने देखिए किसान इस वक्त वो खेती कर रहा है और ठीक सामने देखिए किस तरीके से जो मणिपुर पुलिस और इसके अलावा IRB यानी कि के जो जवान हैं इंडियन रिजर्व बटालियन के, वो इस वक्त आपको यहाँ पर उनकी सुरक्षा में तैनात यहाँ पर दिखाई देंगे। तो यानी कि जो किसान है वो पुलिस सुरक्षा के बीच इस वक्त मणिपुर में खेती करने के लिए मजबूर हैं। इसके पीछे की वजह भी आपको बताते हैं। ठीक सामने आप देखिए वो जो पहाड़ी आप देख रहे हैं, दरअसल उस पहाड़ी के ऊपर विरोधी गुट यानी कि कुकीज ने अपने बंकर बनाए हुए हैं और इस वक्त जहां मैं मौजूद हूं, ये जो आप जमीन देख रहे हैं जहां पर चारों तरफ आप ये धान के खेत देख रहे हैं, दरअसल ये मेitei का इलाका है, यानी कि मेitei समाज जो है वो यहाँ खेती करने के लिए आता है और उनको डर है कि जो विरोधी गुट है उनका जो कुकी है उन्होंने ऊपर पहाड़ों के ऊपर बंकर बनाए और जैसे ही वो खेती करने यहाँ पर आएंगे तो उनके ऊपर गोलियां चलाई जाएंगी। तो इसके अलावा IRB के जो जवान है हमारे साथ मौजूद है। सर ये बताइए आप लोगों की ड्यूटी कब से यहाँ पर?
अभी जो 1 महीना अभी जो होने वाला है।
अच्छा।
लगभग वो जो 20 दिन ऐसा ही हो गया। लेकिन हमारे आने से पहले वो जो पुलिस का जो है ना, उन लोगों को तो 3 महीना अभी कंप्लीट होने वाला है।
तो ये देखिए किस तरीके से जो पुलिस के जवान हैं, मणिपुर पुलिस और इसके अलावा जो आईआरबी के जवान हैं, वो यहाँ पर सिक्योरिटी करते हुए साफ तौर पर देखे जा सकते हैं। ये छोटा सा इन्होंने अपना एक बंकर बनाया हुआ है और इसी बंकर के अंदर बैठकर ये लोग 24 घंटे यहाँ पर जो खेतों में काम कर रहे किसान हैं उनकी सिक्योरिटी करते हैं। ये ठीक सामने देखिए, सामने पहाड़ी है और ये ठीक इसी जगह बैठकर पुलिसकर्मी उस पहाड़ी के ऊपर नजर भी रखते हैं। मैं चाहूंगा कैमरामैन अमित बालियान आपको तस्वीरें ठीक सामने से दिखाएं। ये देखिए किस तरीके से सामने पहाड़ है, इधर से नजर रखी जाती है। पहाड़ पर जो बंकर बने हुए हैं, जो विरोधी गुट हैं मेतई के उनके, और उसके बाद यहाँ से तमाम जो किसान जब चले जाते हैं तो उसके बावजूद यहाँ पर पुलिस 24 घंटे इस बंकर के अंदर तैनात रहती है। तो ये जो हालात इस वक्त बने हुए हैं मणिपुर के, ये अपने आप में बताने के लिए काफी है कि जो स्थिति है वो यहाँ पर सुधरने में या फिर कहें जो जिंदगी है सामान्य होने में अभी एक लंबा वक्त यहाँ पर लग सकता है। क्या हुआ था बेटी के साथ?
She is minor. He is innocent. My baby is the innocent. Just my baby and boy washing a place at the last mobile location is Kokta and the Lamdan. This is the Bishampur district. At that time, from the her mother is querying at the time of whereabout. At that time, her phone is removed. Unknown person. Removed means kidnapped case. At that day, whereabout not known. Till we are many complaint to the Honorable Chief Minister, Her Excellency Governor of Manipur, and the our advisor Kuldeep, and social media also is still not whereabout is no information update. Even police also not providing the update information. Today, I heard a viral video. At that time, I am very disappointed. My hopeful daughter is lost by the what I say, no sympathy, unhumanitarian. They very, what I express my sentiments is very shocked, but because my daughter is innocent and that boy also innocent. Why they attacking them? And the rumor is telling both boys and girls are captured on a jeep. At that time, the phone is switched off. Till that, no information whereabout, and the rumor is very rumor. But her death, body or life or death, we do not know. And some very honorable our Prime Minister is comparing only naked fellow is very important, and the murder of the unknown, not only my daughter and many daughters and the boys are losing, missing, and murdered. Why about this? His voice is not.
आप अपने आप को संभालिए।
Indigenous people are very good friendship. I am working both plain and hills. Since my last daughter is telling, Father, why you doing very nicely in and the plain working, but you do not give me my elder sister. Why I come? I don't know how to answer to my last daughter. Is the my I am very disappointed.
Now to discuss more on this, we are joined by Thangimal Melal Dongal, who is a research scholar, a regular guest on our platform, National Institute of Education, Planning and Administration, NEPA, Mr. Suhas Chakma, who is Director, Rights and Risk Analysis Group, and Major General Ashwani Sivach. Welcome all of you to News9 Live. I'll first start with you, Suhas. You have seen the kind of ground reports been done by our correspondent there. in Churachandpur, in Imphal, in various other, More and other places. How do you react to what is happening on the ground? Because we just played the soundbite of a father, whose son and daughter are missing, and he's making heartrending pleas to the state to find his son and daughter. Police people have to sow their seeds or take care of the crops in the presence of heavy police security. How do you analyze this, sir?
See, I think this is a place where there is a full-scale civil war. The civil war which you have seen in history. It doesn't matter whether it was in Spain, it was during the partition of India, or anywhere else in the world. And the civil war which has spread to the region in Manipur and Assam, you see people from both communities, because of their attachment, raising issues. So it's nothing new. I think with the exception of Chief Minister Biren Singh, Home Minister Amit Shah, and Prime Minister Narendra Modi, everybody believes that the situation on the ground is bad. Everybody believes that absence of any kind of fresh killings or large scale killing does not necessarily indicate return to normalcy. And it will not return to normalcy because the edifice of this state structure, the government itself, doesn't exist. So the police station brief doesn't go beyond the police station. The Chief Minister brief doesn't go beyond his office or the directions which he is issuing. Nobody listens or nobody can, implement except in exceptional situations like, the FIR which was registered with respect to the, parading naked, sexual assault and gang rape of the women, because you have to report to the Supreme Court of India. And the Supreme Court has already made it clear that, if you do not take action, we'll give you some time, then we shall intervene, at an appropriate time. So they have to ensure that the Supreme Court disposes of the petition this Friday. I think it's supposed to be tomorrow on 28th, they're supposed to report. So that's the only case where they have taken action. Otherwise, the government doesn't exist, and this shall continue. And the response of the Chief Minister does not help to create this situation, or to create conducive atmosphere. For example, forget about what he said about Mizoram Chief Minister. Do not interfere in our internal affairs. As if Manipur is a sovereign country outside, the Union of India, and people from this state or this country cannot express their opinion or cannot participate in a peaceful assembly or deliver their opinion in a public gathering like Joramthanga had done. So this kind of reactions come from only people who believe that beyond the reach of the law, they are almost like the tin pot military dictators we have around the world, where people would say, don't come and interfere in our territory. It would have been more suited to the generals in Myanmar than the Chief Minister of Manipur. Having said that, I think what's clear, yesterday he said, the territorial integrity of Manipur shall not be compromised. Is that the statement at this point of time to be made? Who is talking about disintegration of Manipur? What was the statement of the Home Ministry in the last couple of weeks? In the last couple of weeks, the position of the Home Ministry of Home Affairs has been very clear, and the Chief Minister of Manipur knows that the Naga peace process has been going on from 25th July 1997 until today, 27 July 2023. Nobody had or has talked about or been successful to create or to threaten the territorial integrity of Manipur. So why do you bring up this issue at this point in time? Just to provoke the people belonging to a particular community. So if you look at the reaction of the Chief Minister of Manipur, he is not, it is not expected of him, but he continues to be the same. Just provoke the other community, create the fears. And then, as I said, this is not the right time to talk about the scheduled tribe status of the Meiteis, possibly not the right time to talk about the, the autonomy or union territory, whatever. These are some demands which have been made. First, the peace has to be restored, governance has to be restored, the police need to operate, in a free and fair manner, and the kind of division or which has taken place, ethnic cleansing from both sides because people have moved from both sides. I don't think you can restore it, and the ground situation says that this shall continue for a longer period of time, not necessarily because people want to engage in conflict. I think people are tired of it. It shows that people are suffering from some kind of fatigue from this conflict. But you would see the political leaders, starting with the Chief Minister of Manipur, making statements which do not in any way help to address this situation. Rather than saying, do not interfere in our internal affairs of Manipur, Chief Minister of Manipur would have said that, ensure security of the meiteis in Manipur, because at the end of the day, they are also citizens of India. So what is the issue at stake? The issue at stake is the rule of law, whether in Manipur, whether in Kacharveli, or in Mizoram, all over the country. So you could see that the Chief Minister doesn't care about the rule of law throughout the country. So that's very unfortunate. And this kind of statements, of course, will raise questions among the cookies. What are we supposed to do? Because he doesn't want to give an inch. I don't think, there is any effort whatsoever to build peace by the Chief Minister.
Mr. Dongle, there are reports that the 3 persons were injured and several abandoned houses, 2 buses were burned by armed miscreants in 3 separate incidents in violence hit Manipur. A juvenile has been arrested in Kangpokpi for burning the vehicles and all. The violence continues. Not as intense as it was on those 2 specific dates, but the violence continues. Do you see an end to this violence, or do you see the situation further exacerbating till a tough decision is taken?
Thank you for the question, and thank you also for having me today again. See, looking at the violence, the sporadic violence that has erupted again in Kangpokpi district and also in Moray yesterday, we see how in Kangpokpi, I got to learn that the security forces were using private vehicles that belongs to, a meitei terrorist PLA. And that is the reason why after the army or otherwise the security forces were dropped at their designated camps or otherwise place, and while the bus was returning with the convoy, the masses or the civilians, the kuki civilians in Kangpokpi district intervened and set ablaze the bus because they believe that that bus allegedly belongs to meitei terrorists belonging to the PLA group. And about the violence in Moray, I also got to learn from the ground report that on the fateful day, when a few women and youth in the local youth and women went to buy groceries in the market, they were, beaten black and blue, unprovoked. And in the process, a woman broke her arm, left arm to be precise. And that actually provoked the local community, and they came in big numbers and they started burning the remaining houses that were left unburned during the previous arson that took place in the month of May. And there is also another hotel which is a famous hotel in Moray, which is Elora Hotel. Since the onset of the violence and prior to that, the local people believed that this hotel is a big hotel, and they alleged that this hotel authorities or otherwise, this hotel is responsible in sheltering meitei militants, those especially from Myanmar border side. And that's how they were looking at a chance or otherwise a privilege to make sure that this hotel is razed to the ground. And it seems that yesterday, or otherwise on the fateful day, I think it was Sunday, yesterday, yeah, that they got the opportunity to do that. And for the cookies and the local people there in Moray, they think that it is the revenge or otherwise appropriate action that needs to be taken, because the state government is complicit to the to the terrorists being sheltered in that hotel. So that's the reason why hotel or otherwise the arson took place in Moray and in Kangpokpi district. So as I said, violence is here to stay. Meaning, if you look at the statement given by the Chief Minister himself yesterday, I mean, listening to him makes me upset or otherwise angry. The fact that he seemed to propagate or otherwise profess that he's up to bringing peace and normalcy in the state. You continue to see him anytime he comes to the media and say something. It gives ample chance to provoke the other community again, which one of our previous panelists, Subhasji Chakmaji, has also rightly stated. And if you look at the comments that he made against the Chief Minister of Mizoram, I feel very, very, very upset. In fact, Chief Minister Biren Singh should learn from Zoramthanga the kind of simplicity, the kind of humility, the kind of leadership that he exerts to his own community and people. I mean, this is exemplary, and in fact, Chief Minister N. Biren Singh should learn from Zoramthanga instead of pinpointing or otherwise pointing finger at him. And secondly, if we look at how the Chief Minister of Mizoram, the Chief Minister of Manipur rightly, touted or otherwise alleged that, the Chief Minister of Mizoram should not interfere in internal matters of Manipur. If we look at how, despite the civil society there in Mizoram have warned against the meitei sheltering in Mizoram against their safety, you see how Chief Minister Zoramthanga has intervened and made sure that all these people are moved to safety. You see the other, if you look at the other side in Manipur in the month of May, the Chief Minister did not intervene. He was complicit to the sufferings of the civilians in the state. And many people had to rely on the security forces, the paramilitary forces, to take them to safety to airport. And now you see the Chief Minister intervention otherwise in Mizoram and how the Meitei people are evacuated safely. So if you are saying that you do not intervene directly in the internal affairs of Manipur, then Zoramthanga ji should not also interfere or otherwise, give any regard for the safety of the Meiteis in Mizoram. But it is not that way. So Chief Minister of Manipur, if you look at his counterparts elsewhere in the state of, in all the northeast states, he seemed to be, distinct in terms of, failure, distinct in terms of his leadership anomalies and what many points that you can point out. So in this context, if you look at, I don't see any abatement of violence in the state, and as long as Chief Minister Biren Singh stays in power, there is no roadmap to peace.
Okay, General Siwach, there have been there's this report of 718 Myanmar illegals entering the state of Manipur, and it had on July 22nd and 23rd, and with this 718 Myanmar nationals includes 301 children. And the Home Minister has asked them to deport. How big a security threat you feel these illegal immigrants are as far as the state of Manipur is concerned? And do you see just a subtext, part B of the question, sir, is that do you see now the conflict of which is happening inside Manipur spilling over to other northeastern states? As we have seen already voices from Meghalaya, we have seen already voices from Mizoram. Now we are seeing some sort of turbulence in the state of Assam, sir.
Absolutely. See, no doubt, 2-3 issues which you have brought it out and which my co-panelists have also brought it out. One thing is very clear, the situation in Manipur is still volatile, and the gap and distrust and mistrust between two communities is increasing rather than decreasing. And the situation on ground had not able to be controlled. In the sense, the only solution today is to first ensure these weapons which are there, almost about 8 to 10,000, which 5,000 were looted and another 4 to 5,000 has come from Myanmar. Until they are not recovered back, the violence in the society will remain. So this is a very important thing, and that to happen, what you need is that the Indian Army, which is on a aid to civil authority role, has to come in a counter-insurgency mode. And for that, a unified command has to be made under a army commander and who function under a political dispensation. That why I don't find reason as to why we are delaying, because the it looks as if two communities are at war with each other within our own state. So therefore, the point is that first and foremost is that let's a unified command should work. We have already got a format how we were successful in Assam and Jammu and Kashmir, and how things can be brought back, and they can only brought back once these weapons are taken off, and these weapons are not coming off its own, and therefore there is a requirement of carrying out a combing operation, cordon and search operation, and army to take over, because the only institution which will be respected by all and everyone in Manipur is the army, because they are impartial, unbiased, and they are very objective. Now, as far as the Myanmar is concerned, the footprints are known from the beginning. See, the footprints of China is already known. China wants to create a problem, and if they want a sort of disturbance to take place in the northeast ocean before G20 meeting, and this we have given them in the plate. And now what's happening that the people coming from Myanmar, first of all, one must understand these weapons have fallen down in the hands of the insurgent or the anti-social element on the both sides. And these militant organizations, extremist organizations, whether these are Meiteis, PLA or Kukis, they are now armed. And that is why the violence is increasing rather than decreasing. So these have to come out, and we have to get them out. Now, as far as the people coming from Myanmar, you see, one knows very clearly the Chin population has come and migrated and come into the hills with the kuki, and they were doing poppy cultivation. They have also taken the reserve forest area. But having said so, now again, a lot of people coming, or a lot of influx of migrants from Myanmar is a cause of a concern, to make sure that, no more migrants come. You have to seal the border, and therefore the requirement is that 500 kilometers, almost 500 kilometers between Myanmar and Manipur has to be sealed. It is difficult, but it has to be done, because until and unless you don't do it, you find the influx of militants going on the both sides. Now, third thing is that what is happened is that both sides are making women as a human shield, and they are on the forefront, and that's why the situation become much more fluid. How do we control it? So therefore, there is a requirement of immediately the rule of the law has to come. You have to be firm with those who are taking violence in hand, irrespective which community they are. You have to bring out the law. Today, the people are not afraid of security forces. They feel that they will be only protected by their own people who are guarding that. And that has created a sort of insafety in the mind of everyone. Now, as far as what you are saying is that is there any danger of this now spreading to other neighboring states? Of course. See, I have a tremendous experience of serving in Mizoram, in Lushai Hills, in Lungle and Longtrai in 78, 79. That is the time when the talks started taking place between Mizo National Front, that is Lal Dinga, and the government of India, and Brigadier Pyak Chunga, who are the MNA commander. And then successfully pact was signed in 86. So the question is that the people who have gone now there, especially the Kukis, they are also the same religion. But the Meiteis are Hindus, and Mizoram, the problem is that they are no Meiteis also there. Who will give them protection? If this violence spread there, then the ethnic community violence will also spread in Mizoram. It can also spread in Nagaland. This is the biggest fear, because today Mizoram is the most peaceful state in Northeast, almost a very peaceful any part of the country, because your 86 pact which was signed has succeeded. But if in case the situation remain volatile in Manipur, it will have ramification on Mizoram, especially there is ethnic affinity, especially between Kukis and also the Mizos in Lushai Hill. So that point has to be understood. So far, Nagaland, Nagas have distanced themselves in the fight of Kukis and Meitei, but it can also happen they also get involved. So the danger is very large. The in case we are not able to control violence, we don't able to bring peace, though this violence spreading in other parts of the state of Northeast is very high, and that should be a cause of concern. We now need to pull our sock and ensure that law and order prevail in Manipur. Situation at time is trying to come in normal. Again, it goes bad because the foothill, whether it is Churachandpur, Vishnupur, More, where the population is mixed, there the danger of each other again using violence are very high. In the hills, of course, it is only cookies, and in the plains, it is meitei. But what happened where there is a mixed population, the threat and the fear. So another issue which is coming is that the people have started using violence against security forces also. It means that, one thing is that they may be feeling that the security forces may be taking side of someone, whereas the security forces are very neutral, they are unbiased, they really want to bring peace and order. And that can only happen once a complete control is given as a part of unified command. I will like to tell my viewers also that in 19 police stations or almost majority of the valley floor in Imphal, the Armed Forces Special Park has been taken out, and therefore it becomes very, very difficult for these columns to move. They cannot move without the help of the magistrate, and that is why this counter-insurgency operation, cordon and search operation are taking time, and they are not that successful as we want, because till the weapons are not taken out of the society remains charged, and these weapons have fallen down in the hands of insurgents on both sides and also anti-social elements. So this seemingly looks to be two communities at war, and that is a cause of danger, and these spreading to the neighboring state is very high. The sooner the better. We should now act strongly, because there is a requirement to act strongly, because otherwise you find that we are playing with a fire. It has to happen. There are defense forces which want the peace to come, but they have to be empowered. That's
okay. Suhas, I will come to you, and we are going to discuss two very crucial things. One, Mira Paibis, and how they are stopping the movement of Indian Army, because Army Spare Corps have spoken about it. Second, this 3-4 very important statements of Manipur Chief Minister N. Biren Singh. But before I start with you, I will like to play the soundbite of Mizoram Chief Minister Zoramthanga, and then I'll come to you, and then we will start discussing these very, very crucial points, as far as restoring normalcy, law and order, and what does statements of N. Biren Singh mean. First, listen into what Zoramthanga has to say.
Manipur lama le tang ako chon puina le tundin chonai iam tum nin kan sia eli lama ko andro tin kan tinga to ko do mizo mi pu de be siam le kan duang hian sarkar le hian man ma la ko ta sela mizo mi pu de mizo ha ta mi pu de mizo sarkar senin ni ai ko kan ti thaya chin to kan thai to pin chan kan manga atin sarkar lai puina ati nge le tuin anor ko kan noranga atin sarkar lai puin ma ai to in alat nge ko are there chance that the MNF might withdraw from the NDA? Well, so far the party has not made a consideration for this. It depends upon the political necessity.
What are your thoughts on refusing to resign?
It depends upon the political exigency necessary. Because in politics, there is no hard and fast rule.
Sir, do you think the government then needs to drop on denouncing the
Manipur.
Do you think the government has done its job?
Which government?
Mizoram government.
Well, as far as our government is concerned, we are trying our little best, but still we feel that we have to do much more. And however, we say that even doing the best is not enough at the present time. Well, certainly we are all united irrespective of the parties, irrespective of organization, and irrespective of different communities. We all are united for this purpose.
So will you continue to support NDA even after this?
You heard Zoram Thanga, Mizoram Chief Minister, stating about what he feels about this entire incident. Suhas, yesterday N. Biren Singh made several important statements, and the reason I call them important is because it talks about the illegal immigrants, which is the othering of one community, which is the main grouse. He talks about separate administration and saying that he talks about how they will deal with the illegal drug trade which is there. And he also spoke about the EU, he spoke about Mizo CM, and also about the video which went viral. And I would say that, as Dongal Bhai, wisely said that day, that it was one video which was horrifying to see, but it was a very important video because it brought back the focus of Manipur, like, trust me, nothing did in the last 80-90 days. How do you deal with this situation, when the demand is of separate administration, and that there's a demand by the Kukis that there should be a separate state, and then the Chief Minister says that not even an inch of land will be separated from Manipur till the last drop of blood runs in my veins. It's very much like what Mrs. Indira Gandhi said, that mere khoon ka aakhri katra bhi desh ki seva karega, something on that line, that that not even an inch of land will be separated from Manipur till the last drop of blood runs in my veins. How do you see this very hardening of position vis-a-vis the demand which is being made by the Kuki community? And is it going to further inflame the situation which is there?
This is nothing but inflaming the situation, provoking the Kukis, and to tell the Kuki community that you will.
I think there is some issue, there's some technical issue with Suhas, and we'll go back to him the second we restore our connection. Dongal, are you able to hear me? Okay, I would. There is some technical issue which our team is resolving as we speak. But let's go and listen to the father of a missing boy whose son has gone missing, and he is making an impassioned plea to the government to see to it that his son returns to him without any harm. It's a terrible, terrible human tragedy, if I may say so. When the father, nothing could be worse, than a father or mother, who have to pray to the state for the security of his son or daughter. I mean, as a father, I can just say that there could be nothing more terrifying for them than this. Please listen into this soundbite, and then we'll return back to our discussion.
हुआ क्या था, क्या पता चला आप लोगों को?
अच्छा, मेरा बेटा और बेटी लापता आज तो 20 दिन पूरा हो गया। पहले तो कुछ सोचा है वापस आएगा, कभी कभी प्रेसमैन को किसी गवर्नर होम मिनिस्टर चीफ मिनिस्टर को रिक्वेस्ट किया ढूंढने के लिए, लेकिन आज तो एक छोटा सा वायरल वीडियो देखा है। इसी वीडियो को देखने में सोचा है वो लड़की हमारा बेटी है, इसीलिए 100% कॉन्फिडेंस है वो वीडियो। लेकिन मेरा बेटा लड़का का पता नहीं, वो भी क्या हो गया पता नहीं, इसीलिए इट इज़ डेफिनेटली इट विल बी बोट वेयर डेफिनेटली मार डाला मैं सोचा है। इसीलिए सबसे बड़ा प्राइम मिनिस्टर मोदी जी को और होम मिनिस्टर अमित शाह और मणिपुर के चीफ मिनिस्टर एक्सीलेंसी गवर्नर मणिपुर सबको मैंने प्रणाम किया। वो हम क्या हो गया, हम आंखें के ऊपर में बैठा है, वी आर सिटिंग अपॉन ए फायर फ्लेम। सो प्लीज़ हेल्प अस, प्लीज़ टेस्ट आवर और व्हाट एवर रिजल्ट तो हमको पता चलना चाहिए, जल्दी इसको एक्शन लेना चाहिए और ज़िंदा होने से हैंड ओवर कीजिए। लेकिन 100% कॉन्फिडेंस नहीं है, डेफिनेटली इट विल बी किल्ड बाय द कुकी पीपल्स, आई थिंक सो।
It's extremely unfortunate that that a father or a parents have to undergo this. Suhas, you please carry on with your point, because there was a technical disturbance due to which we couldn't hear a major portion of what you were saying. Please go ahead.
No, what I was basically saying is that only yesterday, Prime Minister of India had asked the Sri Lankan President Ranil Wickremesinghe to implement the 13th Amendment of the Constitution, guaranteeing the rights of the Tamils in Sri Lanka. So now, if India can intervene in the internal affairs of a foreign country, obviously, if something is going on inside the country, as a citizen, Chief Minister of Mizoram will have the right to express his opinion, and I have listened to his interview, and it was very reserved. When there were specific questions, he basically said, there is no hard and fast rule as far as the resignation is concerned, and he basically said we have to find a solution irrespective of the communities. So you have somebody speaking about taking all communities along. So if your response is to say that last drop of my blood will be used to protect the territorial integrity. Now the question is, if you look at this country, what has happened? The reorganization of states took place in 1971 in the Northeast. So many states were carved out of the Northeast, and so many states we are carved out subsequently. Jharkhand has come out, Uttarakhand has come out, the Chhattisgarh had come out, Telangana has come out. You do not have to separate these states. You basically have to create adequate administrative arrangement, and at this point of time there are adequate administrative arrangement in terms of the hill councils. You could strengthen the hill council, whatever. These are final outcomes of negotiations. But in order to prevent any kind of negotiations, he is speaking in a manner so that he can consolidate or harden his position. And that is why I am least optimistic about what Vigilante had said. He had said absolutely correct. Those are the steps to be taken back. But the army cannot operate at this point of time because there is interference from the political leadership, and not interference from political leadership at the state level, at the central level. And we are supposed to discuss the role of the Mera parents. When the 11 members of the KYKL, including those who are allegedly responsible for killing of the security forces, we are let off after being, arrested with arms and ammunition. As somebody had said yesterday, this cannot be a decision at the level of a local commander, because the local commander knows if he or she lets off this kind of insurgents, he or she will be held accountable. So there had to be some kind of instruction from the political leadership or the leadership of the military at the top level. So if you have this kind of an atmosphere where the security forces have no space to operate on their own, even with respect to those who are carrying arms, which is serious offenses, how do you expect the situation to turn back to normalcy? The situation cannot turn back to normalcy. It's very easy to say that, there are communities coming from Myanmar side and they are a security risk. But, in Manipur, in Mizoram, there are about 45,000 people from Myanmar who have taken shelters. And how many people have taken shelter in the Manipur? Possibly 4,000, 5,000. There is a free movement regime. People come freely every day. And there are students from both sides of the border. From Myanmar, they come to these schools in India and they go back in the evening because the situation was normal. So there are security risks when insurgent groups are involved. But at the end of the day, people who are facing persecution from the other side of the border, they will come here. So, saying that the security force, these people pose a threat, that's not the issue. If you do not have a mechanism wherein you document the refugees or asylum seeker and you assess their claims, so just saying that you deport them, it doesn't work out. Then if you say you deport them, they will immediately come and make local cards, whether it's other cards or some other cards, because everything is available in this country. So that's why, so many refugees are arrested with other cards, PAN cards, etc., which allows the mobility. Maybe not at this point of time, but they are moving around regularly. And, in 1990s, about 100,000 Chinese had come and sought shelter in Mizoram after the military took over. They had not gone back, they were integrated, and nobody is going to find them tomorrow. So this kind of social integration has already been taking place, and in Manipur also that has been happening.
Okay.
So what I'm saying is, you have to have a policy on, on people who are coming this side of the point. The last point, I just wanted to mention one thing about the drug cartel and involvement. No particular community is involved in poppy cultivation. Poppy cultivation might be done by particular community areas, but it is with the support of some people in the involved in the drug cartel. You must remember, this problem started with the arrest of a tribal rights activist in Churachandpur area and arrest of some meiteis allegedly involved in international drug trafficking by the Delhi police in Delhi. This conflict, I will not name the persons, but this conflict started simply because of the problems over sharing of the money which comes from the drug cartel, and it belongs to both the communities.
Okay.
The root cause of this problem is that.
Okay, Mr. Dongal, if you look at the statement which has been made by Chief Minister, because our reporter who is at the ground, has horror stories from both ethnicities. We saw a kuki person talking about how his son has gone and he's not been able to reach out to him, and we saw a meitei who's been saying that how his son and daughter have been missing for 20 days, and he's requesting the Chief Minister, he's requesting everybody to get them back. I mean, the horror stories are from both sides. But if you look at the statement which has been made by Manipur Chief Minister N. Biren Singh, when he's saying that the government is not against kuki community but illegal immigrants, and part B, so what exactly is your problem with this statement? Shouldn't this be all right? I mean, because any government should be against illegal immigrants. I'm just trying to understand the situation.
Let me open my statement to your second question by saying that since the Chief Minister started the violence, he wants to finish it. That is the only reason why he used strong words like, until the last drop of my blood runs in my vein, I'm not going to surrender an inch of Manipur land. Simple. Secondly, if you look at the issue of illegal immigrants, I have heard a lot of discussion being held in several news channels and also in News9 Live, and I've seen how Yami has also good knowledge about the issue of illegal immigrants. But as per my knowledge, somebody who comes from Churachandpur and who is obviously has family members living at the borders of More to Myanmar, I have seen how those people living in More have said that the reason why, despite the violence, the volatile situation in Manipur, we still see a lot of people, let's say people coming across the border, is because of the violence, is because of the military junta in Myanmar. There's a law and order failure also in Myanmar, and the local people have again, added that the reason why a lot of people have come is because of the atrocities committed to them by the meitei terrorists in Myanmar. Now let me simplify. As you know, meitei terrorists are given shelter in Myanmar, and they're fighting alongside the military junta against the PDF, People Defense Force, which is the military arm wing of the Aung San Suu Kyi's political party. So the meitei militants or otherwise the terrorists are fighting alongside the military junta and carrying out atrocities in Myanmar. And if you look at it, the PDF has a close relationship again with the Chin people living in the state of Myanmar, or otherwise the Chin Hills in Myanmar. And that's the reason why when these forces are too strong to be kept at bay, we see immigrants or otherwise these people, the Chin people crossing across the border. And that's basically because despite the violence in Manipur, they still feel that if we can get to Churachandpur or otherwise the Mizoram government, we are more safe in these places than staying there in their own home in Myanmar and die there. And according to my personal opinion, in order to solve this problem or the issue of illegal immigrants at this point in time, I feel that the Chief Minister of the Northeast, especially those bordering states like Nagaland, Manipur, Mizoram, Tripura, and Arunachal Pradesh. This chief minister should have, a humane touch, a humane heart to address this. Why I'm saying this is because during in times of this is not just the Kuki and Mizo group, but anybody for that matter will definitely try and go against the law or otherwise against the existing law to find shelter or to find safety. And in fact, if the chief minister of all the Northeast states can have a human touch towards the suffering of the people and make some arrangement, the fact that India is a federal country, to a certain extent, the chief ministers have the power or the authority to make certain arrangement. I believe that
he also Mr. Dongle, he also said about separate administration, that there were demand by Kuki group that there should be a separate state for them. He's the chief minister of Manipur said that not even an inch of land will be separated from Manipur till the last drop. How do you view this statement?
Right. Yes. The reason why the idea of separate administration, emerged is because we see how, according to Article 371C of the Indian Constitution, we have the constitutional protection for the tribals, especially the tribals in Manipur, the Kukis and the Nagas. We have the Autonomous District Council, we have the Hill Area Committee under which, the hill area should be administered. But you look at, since the time this article or otherwise this law was implemented, since 1972 to be precise, we have seen how this law is being abused, this law is being muzzled, this law is being throttled entirely from the time Manipur became a separate state. And we have seen the stepmotherly treatment of the tribals, be it the Nagas and the Kuki. That's the reason why, the core issue why, today, the fight for autonomy, the fight for separate administration from both sides of the community, the Kukis and the Nagas, continue to linger on. And today we see how the fact that the violence, the hatred, which has never existed, since the time I was born, this kind of hatred, the history of Manipur has never seen. Ethnic cleansing that takes place. Yeah, we tout this to be, the sufferings from both sides. I agree, there are sufferings from both sides. But if you look at the gravity, if you look at the weight of the sufferings, the suffering of the tribals, the Kuki Jo community is enormous. Enormous. It cannot be compared. And we see how there are instances of where, parents losing their children. And by the way, there was a news which was shared across the media where it says two meitei, young boy and a girl went missing. And I'm not sure if this is incongruent to what you have raised in the question. But then later they found out that these two were not missing, but actually they eloped. They eloped. So
Mr. Dongle,
they
understand
blame the Kuki.
No, nobody. I get it. But what I'm trying to say is that we are also asking. We have opened our chat box for questions, and there are people who are asking questions. There's a gentleman by the name of N. Birendra Kumar Singha, and I'll ask General Sivach. General Sivach, there have been this ever since this video has released. It has created a lot of furor. The Chief Minister has during the Kargil Vijay Divas program said that due to the large number of FIRs and present turmoil in Manipur, the state was unable to focus on a particular FIR. He said that the video was put out ahead of the parliament session by some for power, thus selling Manipur in India. And if the viral video had been out earlier, then Manipur would not have been put in such a shame. And there is also a gentleman called N. Birendra Kumar Singha, and he is saying that what about rape of hundreds of Meitei women in Chura Chandpur? Why you do not tell it? How boy and girl of Meitei from Imphal were killed in Chura Chandpur district and all. Something which I think Dongle was referring to. How do you go through, I'll come to you, Rongal. How do you go through this narrative, where instead of being ashamed, people think that a video which has been released is embarrassing Manipur. I think what is happening in Manipur is embarrassing Manipur more than that thing. I think, if you are a human being, you would hang your head in shame irrespective of which side you are. And this stands true for everybody. I mean, if it was a meitei woman, I don't think that the horror would be any less or the shame would be any less. How do you go through these conflicting narratives which are at the heart of what is happening in Manipur, sir?
Yeah, very correct. You see, as far as violence is concerned, both the communities have been hit very hard. So therefore, the victims are both sides, and therefore the atrocities have been committed very high on both communities, whether it is meiteis or kuki. So the video which came into limelight has shaken up the conscience of the people of India. We have realized how the women have been treated, how they have been paraded, disrobed, and allegedly raped. This may be one case of a one particular community. There may be many cases of different community also. So I fully agree that in this case where there is a violence in the state, it is basically, you can say, a supper night, or in the sense that is free for all. The victims and the perpetrators are both sides, and that is the worst case scenario. The distrust and mistrust which has happened, until and unless these videos would have not come into limelight, the people of India would have not, their conscience would have not risen. At least it has brought this issue on the forefront. But to say that one particular community is being only adversely affected, I don't think so. The victims are on the both sides, and the perpetrators are also both sides. So therefore, this point must be understood. And I feel that solution is not military. It has to be a political solution. And I want to say, like Kuki telling about the autonomous administrative region, why don't we follow what was done in Assam, in Kokrajhar and Bogaigaon, where we have taken out basically Bodo autonomous region. Some sort of power can be taken out and given to them to run their administration. Some solution has to be found out. Blame game has to stop. As on today, what is happening is there is a no law and order. That has to be brought. And why it is not there? Because there are too many weapons. The whole, society is being weaponized, and therefore the requirement is a strict action to be taken against those who still having weapon. Take out this weapon and take action against anyone who taking law in the hand. Unless you don't bring law and bring peace, that distrust and mistrust will carry on. As on today, both are considering each other as enemy, and both are thinking they are the victim, the other side is the perpetrator. Whereas the fault lies on the both sides, and there is a requirement that trust which was there for last 100 years, that has been lost, and we have to bring it. But one can say very certainty that no particular community is a victim. Both communities victim. The humanity has suffered here. The women and children of both the communities have suffered the maximum. Let's now our conscience be awakened up. Let's bring peace in Manipur. That's the requirement of the day.
Okay, Mr. Chakma, you raised your hand.
No, just I completely agree what Jitendra had said. I just want to add one more point. If a ruler is to be ashamed of, he should be or she should be ashamed of losing of 4,000, 5,000 arms. Because when your security forces lose 4,000 to 5,000 arms or give away, it basically means that your police force no longer exists. Can you imagine 4,000 arms being lost and 4,000 armed civilians coming and attacking the government? And what kind of impact it has? If we look at the Wagner group's reaction in Russia, 25,000 Wagner troops had shaken up the entire Russia, which is the second most powerful militarily or the most powerful nation on the earth. So when you lose this kind of arms and weapons, it basically means that you are not governing the state. There is no governance in the state, and you have completely failed. And that is more shameful, because it basically means that when you cannot rule, this kind of instance or mob rule will take place. And what we have today is the mob rule, and so much so that even the central security forces are not being allowed to enforce the rule of law. So the central security forces, when they go through the major areas or the kuki areas, then they have to take permission the vehicles are searched. Imagine the impact on the morale of the security forces when you have the vigilante groups setting up checkposts and saying, show us whether meiteis are traveling, show us whether the kukis are traveling, and if they travel, you attack, burn down these buses. What kind of impact it will be having on the morale of a security force? He or she doesn't know how to react. If he takes action, he is held accountable. If he doesn't take action, he is held accountable. In which country where government exists, can you have the security forces being checked by the private vigilante groups from both sides, or even the communities building up bunkers and arming them with, arms to the teeth, and all of you?
I agree, Mr. Chakma. Yesterday even we were surprised when we saw that, the Chura Chandpur, where a group was of young men were sitting there and saying that they only allow Indian Army, Assam Rifles and journalists to pass through this. This was in fact a very telling comment on how the local vigilantes or vigilante groups have taken over the security administration. And
no, it's not only a shame on the Chief Minister of Manipur, it's a shame on Home Minister of India, Defence Minister of India, and the Prime Minister of India, that you are subjecting the central paramilitary forces.
I'll come back to you, Mr. Chakma. Let's also let me go back to the sound bites of the son and daughter of Mr. Vunga Zagin. Son and wife of Mr. Vung Zagin Walte, is a BJP MP from Manipur, and he was somebody who was brutally assaulted in Imphal by a mob in Imphal early May. He has been hospitalized. He has not been able to perform normal function. And imagine he's a member of Legislative Assembly, and a couple of days back, he has been discharged by the hospital. But his condition is something, if you see, is a glimpse of how grim the situation in Manipur. Let's listen into Mr. Walte's son and wife on what do they have to say about the incident, the horrifying nature of violence which is there in the state of Manipur, and then we'll go ahead with our discussion.
सर, जिस तरीके से मणिपुर में हिंसा हो रही है, हम देख रहे हैं हालात बद से बदतर हो रहे हैं, और तस्वीरें भी आ रही हैं. बीच में इंटरनेट पूरा बंद था, अब इंटरनेट बीच में रिस्टोर हुआ. लेकिन आपको क्या लगता है सर, हालात वहाँ पर कैसे हैं? और आपके फादर के ऊपर हमला भी हुआ इस हिंसा में.
अभी मणिपुर में तो हालात इट बिकमिंग वर्स एंड वर्स than before.
मुख्यमंत्री एन बीरेन सिंह से मुलाकात करके, मीटिंग करके सचिवालय से लौट रहे थे. उस वक्त हमला हुआ. तो आपको हमले की जानकारी कब मिली? कैसे आपको पता चला कि हमला हुआ आपके फादर पर?
हम लोग का बाबा का वो PSO है ना, उस तो मेइतेई है, उससे लिए वो तो he's safe, and so he has informed us about the incident, and he has informed that death has been brought to RIMS emergency. And उसके बाद तो हम लोग ने पता चल गया बाबा तो he has been brought to RIMS.
अच्छा, तो किस तरह से इंजरी हुई थी, कैसे हमला हुआ? मतलब क्या सब आपके हिसाब से किसने हमला किया? मेइतेई ने किया, कुकी ने किया?
मेइतेई ने किया, लेकिन PSO report as per the PSO report, it was from that black wearing guy, that Arambai Tengol. They have done this.
Okay, उन्होंने हमला किया. और हमला किस तरीके से किया, कैसे हमला किया था, इनको कहाँ चोटें पहुँचाई?
वो लोग ने इलेक्ट्रिक करंट शॉक दिया, और उसका बाद ने वो लोग ने टॉर्चर दिया. और वो लोग ने तो सब ये उसका बॉडी पार्ट तो कुछ भी नहीं किया, लेकिन ये सबसे वो इसका हेड में टॉर्चर किया.
आपको लगता है आप मेइतेई कुकीज को वहाँ नहीं रहने दे रहे हैं?
नो,
मणिपुर में
कुकी जोमी को रहने नहीं दे रहा. इम्फाल में रहने दे रहा है. उसके लिए हम लोग ने सेपरेट एडमिनिस्ट्रेशन मांग रहे हैं सेंट्रल गवर्नमेंट से.
के फादर को अटैक हुआ, और फिर आपको पता दिल्ली आए और इलाज करवाया अपने पिताजी का?
मेरा बाबा वो रिम्स में इमरजेंसी में we have brought him there, and after that with the help of the government and Biren, they have given us the airlift to Delhi, and we have brought him to Delhi with the help of the convoy of Indian Army. So we are so thankful to the Indian Army for conveying us till airport.
बहुत सारी तस्वीरें भी आ रही हैं, हिंसा की भी तस्वीरें आ रही हैं. हम देख रहे हैं कि सब पे अटैक हो रहा है, महिलाओं पे भी अटैक हो रहा है, और आपको भी पास इंफॉर्मेशन तो सारी आ रही होगी. क्या कहेंगे?
Regarding the that I have seen the video of the two naked our lady who have been brought. It has hurt my feeling, and it has doubt the trust of the core of this humanity.
आपको लगता है कि नॉर्थ ईस्ट क्योंकि भारत के एक अलग कोने पे है, बॉर्डर राज्य है, लेफ्ट आउट रहता है, जो अगर ऐसा आपको लगता है जो मणिपुर में जो तमाम हिंसाएं हो रही हैं कहीं ना कहीं लेफ्ट आउट भी है, इसीलिए अभी तक उस पर उतना जितना एक्शन होना था आपके मुताबिक उतना एक्शन नहीं हुआ?
Yeah, sometimes we feel neglected. I feel neglected because Manipur is a small state and a beautiful state. But we feel sometimes we are neglected. But I hope that we have a good government and we have a good ruling party, BJP, that I trust them that they will take up this issue seriously in the parliament. I am hoping that.
जिस तरह से अटैक हुआ, अभी कितने दिनों से आप लोग दिल्ली में? From how many days?
We came here from May 5th. In the morning, we reached here in the morning at 5 in the morning, 5 o'clock.
Okay.
Till today, May 5, June 5, 1 month na? July 5, 2 months.
तो आपको लगता है कि पार्टी का सपोर्ट है पूरा सर के साथ, आपकी फैमिली के साथ?
Not yet. Financial support is not there. But officially, only Biren gave me 5 lakhs.
Okay. आपको लगता है और मदद होनी चाहिए क्योंकि जिस तरह से हालात हैं और जिस तरह की तबीयत हम देख रहे हैं कि वाल्टे सर की तबीयत तो बहुत ज़्यादा ख़राब है और जिस तरह का कॉन्शियस ही वाज नॉट, मतलब कॉन्शियस तो हैं बट नॉट इन दैट सेंस. और हेल्प होनी चाहिए.
Help, financial help. Yeah, some are giving 1,000, 2,000, some are giving 50. From education minister, he gave me 50. When he came to me, he gave me 50,000. And others from locality, from philanthropic, they give us help, 1,000, 2,000, like that, no? Only that. From the government side, one day Biren called me, Madam, don't worry, for Valtes and you, I'll finance you your expenditure. Don't worry, he said to me. But till now, he didn't. The expenditures he doesn't done from the government side. But he sent me 5 lakhs to Dr. Vigilante. Only that.
और होनी चाहिए मदद क्योंकि जिस तरह से हालात हैं, आपको लगता है there is more help?
Yeah, more help. We need more help. Every week we need treatment, and then every day physiotherapy was done, and we spend every day 1,000, and then for checkup we need more more help. Yeah.
You know, we are joined by Mr. Sameer K. Purkayasth. He is Associate Editor, The Federal. Mr. Purkayasth, welcome to News9 Live. Thank you for being with us. Mr. Purkayasth, we have been covering Manipur for almost 3 months now, much before the crisis start and the political crisis which looked like engulfing the state of Manipur, and especially Chief Minister N. Biren Singh when Kuki MLAs went to Delhi trying to reach out to the BJP central leadership and saying that there should be change. And ever since, Manipur has been in a downward spiral of violence, which is saying, one important angle which has been covered by one of the Hindi national daily, which puts the spotlight to something which the Spear Corps had given some time back. The role of Meera Paibis. And it's a very important and interesting discussion, which I think by after going through that, we felt like that this should be discussed, come what may, because the Spear Corps in their tweet, if you see this 24th of June visual, it's very clear that the Indian Army had to write that they are humane, but this is what was witnessed, that women folks were accompanying armed rioters and how they forced the police to free the KYKL leaders, especially one who was charged of killing an army jawan before that. How do you see the role of Meera Paibis, Mr. Samir Purkayast, if you go by, the kind of active support they are leading to people on the ground who are carrying this fight?
See, in Manipur, in any sorts of protest or agitation, Meera Paibis has always taken pivotal role, and they are at the forefront always. And even in this time of crisis, Meera Paibis are not only confronting the security forces, they are actively supporting village volunteers in what they call putting up resistance against attacks from other sides. They are on the roads. They are checking vehicles. Vehicular movements are regularly checked by them. If you want to go from valley to the hills, you will find lots of checkpoints manned by Meera Paibis. Similarly, on the other side also, the kuki women are in the forefront. So in Northeast, you see the women in the front, they take very active part in agitations, in all sorts of political movement, whatever. And this time also, Meera Paibis are playing very active role. And their confrontations with the security forces natural, because Meera Paibis and security forces have, trust deficit from this trust deficit goes back to several decades. So, if you remember, during this counterinsurgency operation, they were at the forefront protesting against atrocities against women by the security forces.
Yes.
So this has been there has been a history to this, long history to this. But this time, in certain cases, like their role, particularly from the opposite side, their role has been questioned. And particularly, there are allegations that Meera Paibis helped hand over few kuki women to the volunteers from meitei communities. We don't know how far these allegations are true. This needed to be investigated. But there are these kind of allegations are also there. But having said so, see, it's not these confrontations and the way they are confronting with the security forces is it's extension of the role they had been playing in the society. And it's not only Meera Paibis. Yesterday in More, this incident took place when security forces were attacked. There also the kuki women took a very active part in that, in that kind of resistance or confrontation with the security forces. So women from both sides are now at the forefront in this confrontation. Not only the Meera Paibis, even the kuki women are also putting up the resistance from their side. They are also manning checkposts. So, so women from both sides are playing very active role. And in the days to come, as there are, this there are chances that if this crisis lingered, then the people in general will take harder stands against Indian state. And there are already some talks about revival of the this merger agreement with India. This demand for revisiting merger agreement with India has already been raised by some organizations. So in the days to come, this confrontation will only aggravate if this crisis is not immediately, handled or addressed.
Okay, that's a very lucid explanation of how things are panning out. And for our viewers, we would like to say that Meera Paibis, also known as mothers of Manipur, are meitei women who come from all sections of society in the Imphal Valley. They are widely respected and represent a powerful moral force. They're loosely organized, usually led by groups of senior women, but have no rigid hierarchy or structure. And they were formed in 1977, and they're one of the largest grassroots movement in the world. Initial focus on fighting alcoholism and drug abuse, and now expanding to countering human rights violations and development of society at large. And over the decades, the Meera Paibis have led numerous social and political movements in the state, including some powerful protests against alleged atrocities by Indian security forces, leveraging their strong position in the society in the interest of the causes they have espoused. But this time their situation has, the army was forced to, if my viewers are visiting this incident which happened in Yangang Popki, which is in Imphal West, where the Spear Corps had to put out a tweet where they said that thousands of women had surrounded them, and this is the reason why they had to let go of hardened militants, meitei militants, and including one which was accused of killing an army Jawan some a decade or 8 years, 10 years back. Mr. Dongle, you've seen the report. There's this report, and as Mr. Purkayas very eloquently put, that it's not only Meera Paibis who are stopping the armed forces from carrying out their duties, their attempt to make sure that the law and order is checked, their identity cards are checked by Meera Paibis, their intention is checked, and usually a kind of atmosphere is created where the army can't open fire or can't lathi charge such a massive gathering of women. Do you think, what do you make of this current situation, whereas the army hand is forced by women groups in Manipur?
Brijesh ji, please allow me to come to your question a little later, because you have put out a bite of Vunjagin Valte, and I'd like to make a small comment on that one. We have seen how Vunjagin Valte, who was the chief minister advisor in his cabinet, advisor to the chief minister. On that fateful night, intervening night, he was with the chief minister. He had a talk, and I think Lepao Haukip, he is also a minister of tribal affairs in Biren Singh government. He was also present, and while they were returning, this incident happened. And Vunjagin Valte, as you have said, testification of his own son that his father was, and also beaten black and blue. The minister house was also attacked, and then in the process, despite several attempts to reach out to the chief minister did not respond to the stress call from one of his ministers, that is Mr. Lepao, and his entire property house were destroyed in Imphal. And he also said later in the month of May, the house of Mrs. Nemcha, he's also a minister in Chief Minister Biren Singh's cabinet. Minister, yet his quarter in Imphal was also raised to the ground. So all of these things, the ministers are not safe. That is why the common people today the Kuki Joe people today feel ministers are not safe. If those in power are not safe, then who are we? Therefore, the protest or otherwise the hankering for separate administration is on the rise. And yes, coming back to your question on regarding the role of women in Manipur, there are instances wherein we have seen the Meira Paibis have used their like I said in my earlier presentation also, how they that they will take off their clothes if the army did not comply to the request. So they have weaponized nakedness or use it as a weapon to curtail the combating operation and the law and order process to take its due course. So today there was instance yesterday wherein in Sapomena in Kampupi district there were involvement of Kuki women and also the civilians, the local people burning down 2 buses in Kampupi district. Now I will not be surprised to say that the role of Meira Paibis and how they have camouflaged the idea or camouflage the violence atrocities committed by the meitei terrorists or otherwise the Rambai Chengon and Meitei put in the valley, that having spillover effect on the Kukis or otherwise the women belonging to the Kuki Joe community in particular. So when they realize that this is the right weapon and otherwise the right way to defend their territory or otherwise their area by condoning of the army forces or the paramilitary forces to take actions, I think the same has been realized by the Kuki Joe community that if women are in the forefront, then I think to a certain extent we can have
Mr. Dongal, but Mr. Dongal, you just listened to Mr. Samir Purkayas. He said that the same trick is also being adopted by Kuki women also because of something which happened yesterday. So I'm just trying to understand because usually place from where I come from, this is not that heard of. The women being at the forefront of fighting the security forces. Even the Kuki women are doing that. Mr. Samir Purkayas just told us. So how do you assess that situation?
Yeah, thank you. Since the time the violence erupted in the state of Manipur from the month of May, early May, we have seen just one instance wherein the Kuki Joe women were involved. That was yesterday. And in fact, it's not just the women, civilians, the local people, alongside the women, Kuki Joe women in in Kampupi district. That's one instance that we have seen. Whereas you see, there are several other instances, more grave in nature, the involvement of Meira Paibis in the valley. We have seen how the Meira Paibis have said to their men to go and rape Kuki women. Yeah, there is a video on record, and also how 12 terrorists were released because of the involvement of the Meira Paibis in condoning of the army to take necessary action against the terrorists who were caught. So look at the involvement. If you look at the involvement and also the modus operandi, both adopted by both the so-called, in comparison, the Meira Paibis and also the Kuki Joe women, we see, anybody who is rational or right-thinking human being can point out who actually is, propagating violence or otherwise shielding atrocities to take place without abatement, in their own area. So, in that sense, Kuki women, Joe women involvement is minuscule. It's minor.
Minuscule.
In that sense.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
And wait. Let me come back to one point that we talk about.
I will get back to you. I will get back to you, Mr. Dongal. We give enough time for our guests to respond to their heart's content. We don't impose our views, or we don't love to cut our guest short and all. We're also joined by Dr. Haukip. Dr. Haukip, welcome to News9 Live. Always good to have you here. Dr. Haukip, there was a video which was released by Spare Cop on 24th or 25th of June, last month, where they talked about how they were surrounded by large gathering of women and they forced the army to release 12 KL militants, and including one who was accused of killing an army guy. The role of Mira Paibis have also come into question about how they are forcing the Indian army. They're checking their, identity cards, or they are ensuring that, that they're not able to operate as freely as they would like to. A very leading Hindi newspaper has done a ground report from Imphal as well as More, where they have illustrated about how the security forces are now saying that they need more women Jawans to counter them. How do you describe the role of Mira Paibis, Dr. Haukip?
I don't need to talk much about the Mera Pabis anymore, because for the last almost 2 months we have been discussing, and there are many reports about them in newspapers, in television channels. So I don't have to talk much more about that. But in order that the armed forces do their work, as we all know, there are thousands of arms being given away, handed away to radical groups. This has been the worry. The armed, personals, for instance, the commanders, those who have led Manipur in the past as DGP and others, they are so worried about this arms that has been into the public hand, the radical groups, and people are not talking much, or the government's not talking much about this, how to recover them. And the only way to recover all these arms is to empower the armed forces, and that reimposing AFSPA for a few months is the only way. And we have been suggesting for the last many months, more than 2 months now, that reimpose AFSPA for a few months, so that there is peace and normalcy returning in the state. And that has been not listened by anyone in Delhi or in any elsewhere. So what do we have now? We have a situation where earlier we have a situation where the armed forces are said to be having impunity. Now it's the women folks, it's the people, it's the people who are having impunity over what to say, how to demonize others, how to cross-check the duty of armed forces in doing their duty. So this is a very sad situation, and it's very glaring. I don't have to say much more about this, and it has been in place for the last 2.5 months. So in order that peace and order returns in this state, there is a need to reinforce, or there is a need for urgent reimposition of SPA, so that the armed forces can do their own work without any partiality. And we all know the disparity between the hills and valley, where in the hill areas, all the insurgent groups, including the Nara insurgent groups, they have signed suspension of operation, and they are undergoing peace talks, and they are functioning under the law of this land. While on the other hand, you have the valley-based insurgent groups who are operating in Myanmar, but now they are mostly in the valley now. And without this, power by the armed forces, they cannot handle all this, unrest in the valley. So we have to deeply look into it, into the security point. Whenever my colleagues and my friends from the valley, we discuss about this, they will always divert about, all these issues. But the reality is that there is so much impunity in the valley that they don't have any, they don't have any thing to, think about it. They can just say whatever is in their mind, whether it is about demonizing, otherizing the minorities, particularly the Kukis, saying that they are immigrants, they're coming from Myanmar. They all know. But this is a kind of politics where you try to, divert the kind of political demands that the hill people have been, had mad for the last many years. And when we talk about political talks should precede peace, then they would always say that that is the ultimate goal. But who started all this kind of demonization, othering, calling the minorities as immigrants, poppy cultivators, without talking about who are the drug traffickers, who are financing them, where does corruption lies, where does the lion's share of the the kind of funding that Delhi gives to this state, because Manipur is a special category state. 90% of the funds came from Delhi, and all these, all this money are spent mostly in the valley in the form of institutional building like universities, colleges, administrative staff, and other things. If you look into Manipur, then you would also see all those institutions building up in Far Valley only. On the other hand, in the hills, you hardly have roads where you could go safely to the district or even other places. There are no primary health centers, for instance, like in Hinglip or in Kingsoy or other places. You don't have the schools, the minimal schools that are needed for poor villagers in the hill areas to be educated. So in such areas, people do practices so many things like doing the minimal farming, zooming cultivation, and others to make their livelihood. And this zooming cultivation is look upon as something that destroys environment, because this zooming is practiced for thousands of years by the indigenous people. And it has been sustainable for long, and the debate is long gone in the last many decades that as we have perceived in the last many decades, zooming is not as destructive to the environment as it has been perceived. So different kind of academic discussions are coming up. Many policies are being driven up in Nagaland to change into the outlook of this zoom cultivation, because these hill states, they don't have any plain areas where you have paddy fields, where you have
There seems to be some sort of technical hitch with Dr. Haukip, and before I go to Samir and ask him about what he makes of the statement which has been given by in fact I would like to first come to you, Samir, before I go to and play the ground report which has been done by a reporter. Samir, yesterday, and you're there at the ground zero, and your perception, your analysis have been pretty spot on. Yesterday, N. Biren Singh during this Kargil Vijay Divas has made couple of statements. So what do you make of them? When he says that that not even an inch of land will be separated from Manipur till the last drop of blood runs in my veins. And he also said that his government was firm on identifying illegal immigrants and driving them out of state. And he also says that that this is not against kuki community who have been residing together in state since a long time, but against illegal migrants that have infiltrated into the state. Samir?
See, when he says that not an inch of Manipur will be disintegrated, so its onus is now on him to ensure that that inch of land is not disintegrated. And when you talk about land, you also have to talk about the people who are occupying those lands. So unless and until you win the confidence of the people who are occupying that land, just mere talk about integration will not help. Yeah, of course, nobody is saying that disintegration of Manipur is a solution at this moment. But then the empowering of the communities who are demanding separation. Why are they demanding separation? Their grievances, their grievances need to be addressed. And unless that is done, just mere talk about that till this rhetoric, that till there is a single drop of blood in my vein, this kind of rhetoric will not help. There has to be some action on the ground to win the confidence of the people. After all, he is the chief minister of the entire state. So now the onus is on him to win back the confidence of the minority communities. So that one on this integration part. Secondly, his statement about illegal migrants. First thing, yes, if there is an illegal migrant in these states, it is for the state government to identify them. So far, this thing, information I have is that the state government had gone and done a survey, visiting door to door, before this crisis erupted in May 3. So until just before this May 3 violence, they had done a survey, and 2,000 odd people were found to be illegal migrants. So the state government should come out with exact figures. How many migrants are there in the state? See, just flimsy number will only lead to more crisis. It will aggravate crisis. It will lead to fear mongering. So instead of doing that, the state government should come out with the exact numbers. We know what Mizoram when this crisis started, and in fact, I have written in the Federal that this this crisis in Myanmar can lead to a serious problem in northeastern India, because so many migrants are coming, and so instead of having a proper policy towards identifying these so-called illegal migrants, unlike what Mizoram has done. Mizoram has allowed them to settle in their state. They have given identity card, done proper survey. So they know the exact numbers, that 50,000 odd illegal migrants are there in Myanmar. But in case of Manipur adopted a very very loose policy. They said that will not allow a single migrants to enter, and then they didn't bother to keep any record, and which led to this kind of speculative figures. Somebody is saying that the number of migrants are so big that it will change the demographic profile of the state. Whether it is so, that should be verified or buttressed with the exact authentic number, but that number is not there. So everybody is doing lots of speculation. And it is again the responsibility of the state government to give the people the right number, and not to speculate with the numbers of illegal migrants, because this will only aggravate the crisis. It will create a sense of insecurity among the cookies, and also it will create insecurity among the majority meitei communities. They will they will start fearing that and they will be outnumbered. So, instead of doing all this kind of political rhetoric, instead of indulging in this kind of political rhetoric, he should come out with hard facts.
Okay, Dr. Haukip is back with us. He was there was some issue with the connection. Dr. Haukip, I would like, as I was asking, Samir, about the statement which has been made by the Chief Minister N. Biren Singh, and where he's made couple of statements which is diametrically opposite, 180-degree opposite to what the Kuki community, the MLAs and the society are talking about, which is that he's saying that that there is going to be not even an inch of land will be separated from Manipur. When he was asked about separate administration, will be separated from Manipur till the last drop of blood runs in my veins. And he said that the state government was firm on identifying illegal immigrants and driving them out of state. He also said that, he is not against the Kuki community which have been residing together in the state since a long time, but against illegal migrants that have infiltrated into the state. Do you see this statement by him as a further provocation to the situation which is there in the state of Manipur, Dr. Haukip?
As one of my colleagues in JNU has always said, there is a kind of imperial nostalgia. For instance, the Chief Minister is speaking like he is a Maharaja of Manipur 200 years back, where the kind of political thought or the kind of system that was prevailing was about a kingdom. Today we are in the Indian Union. Everyone is a citizen of India who settles in this great country, and the territory under this this union, the sovereignty resides with the Indian Parliament, and all lands belong to the government of India. So in this way, nobody can say that this is the state that has to be preserved with every inch of blood in his body. No, I think this is something very wrong. He is speaking like someone like a dictator who is ruling, certain territory. This is the Indian Union, and here the parliament is the sovereign. Everything is decided in the Indian Parliament, whether a state has to be split or a state has to be, forged into a larger state. It depends upon the Constitution. Article 3 says that we can divide a state, we can merge a state, or it gives power to the Indian Parliament. So nobody, no chief minister has the power to talk about the territory of a certain state. And looking into what has been talked about in the last many months, for instance, illegal immigrants, how this illegal immigrants has been taken into a certain category itself is started by the chief minister himself. He said the cookies are illegal immigrants. That kind of othering and demonizing has been started by the state government under his leadership himself. He fed the population of the majority, and now everybody is talking about this as if all the cookies are illegal immigrants. We are very much aware that we have a porous border. There are troubles in Myanmar. The civil war is going on, and waves between the PDF, the ethnic militias against the military junta. That we know, and there are women and children who are wanting safety and seeking shelter, seeking refuge on the border between India and Myanmar. That we very well acknowledge. As a big country, as the biggest democracy, don't we have this honest to harbor them for a while until they feel safer in their own country? That in that kind of thinking has not been put up by any state in India till today. For instance, particularly the Manipur government, they were against any illegal immigrations. Or of course, there's no illegal immigration, but the refugees coming into the border areas like in More or adjoining areas. So Mizoram has a proper place. Mizoram has a proper policy in place where these immigrants or the refugees are, counted, given identity cards, and settled with certain rations given by the state government. So unlike that, we have been taken, certain roads where we are very antagonistic to such kind of accommodative, policies towards refugees who are trying to seek refuge for some time in our country. So that is the difference between Mizoram and Manipur. And similarly, if there is trouble in Upper Sagyang division, many Nagas who are in the other side of the border would seek shelter in the border areas of Nagaland. And I hope so that the Nagaland would not be so antagonistic towards such refugees who are trying to seek refuge for the time being. So, we also have to look into other, population also. Since there are sizable Manipuri population in Burma also, we have never talked about how many Kathe, the Kathe are Manipuris in Burma. They are under Kuki Chin linguistic groups, or they are group under the Chin, tribes in Burma. So there may be a population of Kathes who would be seeking refuge in Imphal right now also, and we have never talked about it. There are many Kacharis, or there are other Silathis from Bangladesh who have been for the last many decades slowly sheltering, coming back to Manipur for their own safety as well as for a better prospect of life. We all know all this history that 200 years ago, Manipur faced a certain historical blunder where the Awa or the Burmese attack the Imphal Valley, and many have to rush towards Kachar and Bangladesh for their safety. And that returning of the population has continued till today, and we are not talking about that. So all these historical factors, all these kind of nuances and other nitty-gritties, we have not talked about, or knowingly we have ignored for so long. That's what I want to put down.
Okay, before I go to Mr. Dongal, who has been very patiently waiting for me, I really appreciate your patience. I will first like to play the ground report which has been done by our correspondent who is there in the Manipur, and after that, we will resume our discussion.
ठीक मेरे बाएं तरफ आप देख सकते हैं यहाँ पर बाकायदा पुलिस ने अपना एक बंकर बनाया हुआ है, बड़ी संख्या पर पुलिस बल तैनात है और चारों तरफ आपको यहाँ धान के खेत दिखाई देंगे, जहाँ पर ये जो किसान है बिष्णुपुरा इलाके के, वो यहाँ पर अपने खेतों के अंदर खेती करने आते हैं। लेकिन ये जो खेती है इन धान के खेत में, वो दरअसल पुलिस के साए में हो रही है, यानी कि पुलिस सुरक्षा के साए में की जा रही है। ठीक सामने देखिए किसान इस वक्त वो खेती कर रहा है और ठीक सामने देखिए किस तरीके से जो मणिपुर पुलिस और इसके अलावा IRB यानी कि के जो जवान हैं इंडियन रिजर्व बटालियन के, वो इस वक्त आपको यहाँ पर उनकी सुरक्षा में तैनात यहाँ पर दिखाई देंगे। तो यानी कि जो किसान है वो पुलिस सुरक्षा के बीच इस वक्त मणिपुर में खेती करने के लिए मजबूर हैं। इसके पीछे की वजह भी आपको बताते हैं। ठीक सामने आप देखिए वो जो पहाड़ी आप देख रहे हैं, दरअसल उस पहाड़ी के ऊपर विरोधी गुट यानी कि कुकीज ने अपने बंकर बनाए हुए हैं और इस वक्त जहां मैं मौजूद हूं, ये जो आप जमीन देख रहे हैं जहां पर चारों तरफ आप ये धान के खेत देख रहे हैं, दरअसल ये मेइतेई का इलाका है, यानी कि मेइतेई समाज जो है वो यहाँ खेती करने के लिए आता है और उनको डर है कि जो विरोधी गुट है उनका जो कुकी है उन्होंने ऊपर पहाड़ों के ऊपर बंकर बनाए और जैसे ही वो खेती करने यहाँ पर आएंगे तो उनके ऊपर गोलियां चलाई जाएंगी। इसके अलावा IRB के जो जवान है हमारे साथ मौजूद है। सर ये बताइए आप लोगों की ड्यूटी कब से है यहाँ पर?
अभी जो 1 महीना अभी जो होने वाला है।
अच्छा।
लगभग वो जो 20 दिन ऐसा ही हो गया, लेकिन हमारे आने से पहले वो जो पुलिस का जो है ना, उन लोगों को तो 3 महीना अभी कंप्लीट होने वाला है।
तो ये देखिए किस तरीके से जो पुलिस के जवान हैं, मणिपुर पुलिस और इसके अलावा जो IRB के जवान हैं, वो यहाँ पर सिक्योरिटी करते हुए साफ तौर पर देखे जा सकते हैं। ये छोटा सा इन्होंने अपना एक बंकर बनाया हुआ है और इसी बंकर के अंदर बैठकर ये लोग 24 घंटे यहाँ पर जो खेतों में काम कर रहे किसान हैं उनकी सिक्योरिटी करते हैं। ये ठीक सामने देखिए, सामने पहाड़ी है और ये ठीक इसी जगह बैठकर पुलिसकर्मी उस पहाड़ी के ऊपर नज़र भी रखते हैं। मैं चाहूँगा कैमरामैन अमित बालियान आपको तस्वीरें ठीक सामने से दिखाएं। ये देखिए किस तरीके से सामने पहाड़ है, इधर से नज़र रखी जाती है। पहाड़ पर जो बंकर बने हुए हैं जो विरोधी गुट हैं मेइतेई के उनके, और उसके बाद यहाँ से तमाम जो किसान जब चले जाते हैं तो उसके बावजूद यहाँ पर पुलिस 24 घंटे इस बंकर के अंदर तैनात रहती है। तो ये जो हालात इस वक्त बने हुए हैं मणिपुर के, ये अपने आप में बताने के लिए काफ़ी हैं कि जो स्थिति है वो यहाँ पर सुधरने में या फिर कहें जो जिंदगी है सामान्य होने में अभी एक लंबा वक्त यहाँ पर लग सकता है।
Mr. Dongal, there's one, the Manipur Chief Minister was also pretty upset about the Mizo CM, Zoram Thanga, and his statement, which the 2-3 tweets which he had tweeted about, how his blood boils and silence is not an option. He said that he warned Mizoram CM Zoram Thanga not to interfere in the state internal affairs of other state, adding that consequences will not be good. What do you make with this kind of language, which is used by both the chief minister, one where one says that, that silence is not an option and my blood boils, and other chief minister, who says that consequences will not be good. And how does it pan out for the people at large, who are dependent on this state machinery for the security and law and order?
Yeah, the Chief Minister of Mizoram, Zoram Thanga, has closely been watching, how things pan out in Manipur since the time the violence erupted in the month of May until today. Mizo, Kuki, and Chin are, ethnically brothers and sisters, and the fact that the people in Manipur, especially the Kuki Jo community, are suffering and are bearing the brunt of the violence in Manipur, which is definitely perpetrated by Arambai Tengol, Meitei Lipun in connivance with the state forces. When the involvement of the state is at play, when the involvement of the state is there for everyone to see, and the Chief Minister of Mizoram being aware of the state's involvement, I think that probably propelled or otherwise ignited that sort of words to proceed from his mouth. Whereas, despite all of this, he has done his best to protect, to defend, and make sure that the Meiteis inhabiting, Mizoram, or otherwise those in Mizoram, are evacuated safely. And now, however, on the other hand, as I've made the comparison earlier also, the Chief Minister of Manipur was complicit to the violence, complicit to the sufferings of the Kuki Jo community in Imphal Valley under his nose. So when you make the comparison, and when you try and compare the comments or otherwise the interference of chief ministers on its other internal matters, you see that of Mizoram Chief Minister Joram Thanga to be, on a better platform. That is why I said the Chief Minister of Manipur should have learned, a lesson, the idea of leadership, his idea of simplicity and integrity from that of Chief Minister Joram Thanga. And let me also take this time to refute the claim that there are a lot of, say, news doing the rounds wherein 100 women or more were raped in Churachandpur. Brijesh, this is one reason why, propagating or otherwise circulation of fake news that ignited, or otherwise that was the main reason why, mobs went rampage in Imphal Valley. Now, there are more to that. There is a solid foundation already laid by the Chief Minister himself, which Dr. Hakib has also, over and over, time and again, and Professor Swan has also time and again reiterated. But the raping of 100 women in Churachandpur district never happened. Please, let me put this on record. It never happened. There is no proof, there is no record, there is no names, nothing. And just like that, it's speculative in nature. Just as we are speculating, many people are speculating, or otherwise the other community are speculating the illegal immigrants issue in Manipur. That could even change the demographic structure of the state. Those are speculative in nature, both be the rape or be the illegal immigrants issue. So if there are thousands of people, for that matter, let's say that to be true, are we, making a joke of the BSF who are guarding the border? I mean, are they a joke? Are they not doing any action? Then, it is a question on the integrity. So the state government should come hard-handed on the BSF, not the Kuki people in particular. And now the Chief Minister is saying, I am not against the Kukis, but the illegal immigrants. Dr. Hakib has also, time and again reiterated how he has started targeting the Kuki community as a whole, branding them as illegal immigrants, poppy planters, all of those things happen. And today, how can he deny all those things and say, I'm only against illegal immigrants? If he was, in the beginning, against only illegal immigrants or the issue of illegal immigrants, then he should have, he have the right and every machinery at his disposal to deal with the issue of illegal immigrants, isn't it? If today the Chief Minister says that he's only against immigrants after the damage has been done, I think he's only trying to sideline or otherwise wash his hands off the violence or otherwise the atrocities that he has tacitly committed upon the other community.
Dr. Hakib, what do you have to say about this new war words between the Mizoram Chief Minister and yesterday, as stated by N. Biren Singh, that consequences will not be good? And how do you look at this, the violence which is happening inside the Manipur, spilling out of Manipur? Earlier there were only, Zoram Thanga, and there were reports about the relief camps and all in Mizoram. But now, we are seeing rallies in Assam, we are seeing rallies in other parts, and we are also seeing statement of other chief ministers as well. So how do you react to the war of words between the two chief minister, and also the Manipur crisis spilling out of Manipur and its larger impact in northeast region?
A chief minister like a state of Manipur, which is composed of diverse communities. There are more than 30 tribes which constitutes the hill communities. And within the plain areas also, there are different communities. It's not just the Meiteis. There are the Pangals, or the so-called Muslim Manipuris of Manipur, And there are other communities who are settling in this state. For instance, the Nepalis and others. So the chief minister is the chief minister of all these communities coming together. And when a chief minister is acting or speaking as if he is the chief minister of a particular community or the majority committee, then and otherizing all other communities, particularly attacking on certain communities, then there is a right of other neighboring states. The chief minister like Joramthanga, he has to react out of compulsion. The chief minister of Manipur should have acted as if he's the chief minister or is the fatherly figure of all communities, particularly the minorities. The policies should be conducive to them, and they should be looking into the problems of the state together. Rather than that, he has been engaged in pitting against certain communities, despite launching certain programs like go to the hills, go to the village. These are decorative, policies. But on the other hand, it delivers hardly anything. A minuscule or very impractical, policies and programs have been launched. But rather, on the other hand, we can find that most of the policies that has been framed in the last 6 years can be said to be against a particular community. You look carefully, there can be defense of certain areas that in terms of foreign policy we have implemented to all and all areas and its ethnic communities affected. But look into how much a certain community has been affected so much, and it is directed against certain districts. So all these kind of policies and programs that have been launched in the last 6 months indicates that he is the chief minister of only certain community, and he is directly against a certain community for having certain political aspirations or political talks with the central government. Instead of being a community within the framework of the state, he chose to be antagonistic to a certain group. That is very evident in all his talks and all his policies. So therefore, I don't wonder that the chief minister of Mizoram, as a chief minister who is very close to the Kuki, Jomi, Mar ethnic groups in Manipur, he has to react to the kind of policies and programs that the chief minister of Manipur has. And I don't wonder all these reactions, because it is bound to, unless a chief minister who has different communities, particularly the Naga minorities in northern hills of Manipur and the Kuki, Jomi, Mar and other communities in the southern hills of Manipur. So it is bound to have certain repercussions in the southern part of the state, as well as from the northern part of the state also in future. Who knows? The Naga chief minister or the Nagaland chief minister may react in due course of time if the troubles building up or going on for the last 2 months continues, and it has affected the Naga population also. The chief minister of Nagaland also will react eventually if the Naga population is affected so much in due course of time.
Okay, Mr. Purkayas, there's one more thing I would want to understand from you. The way it is panning out, every single day, in fact, you can say every single hour, we are seeing hardening of stand from both sides. The statement which has been made by the chief minister saying that till there is last blood, I will not go for separate administration. The Kuki side is also hardening their stand that, forget separate administration. Now we want a separate state. How do you see this panning out? Do you see that we are also given to understand that the central government is also in talks with the meitei groups as well as the Kuki group. There's a track 2 which is being implemented and all. Do you really see a solution panning out? How do you see this thing or crisis panning out? Or do you see further hardening of stand and worsening of situation?
As of now, I don't see this kind of track through and all, though efforts has been made. Even some neutral communities like the Bangals and the Nagas were roped in to talk with the confronting communities. But as of now, this is not making any headway, because as you rightly pointed out, both the sides are digging their heels and hardening their stand. So as of now, I don't see any solution to to soften the situation. First and foremost thing is that restraining the comments of the leaders, community leaders as well as political leaders. But that we are not saying. Blame game is continuing. So this kind of atmosphere is not conducive to restore peace and normalcy. You just now talked about Viren Singh's comments on reaction on Dharam Thanga's comment. Now, these two chief ministers, tutu meme between the two chief ministers is not very healthy sign in any kind of federal structure. And so what now we have to understand that the situation today we are witnessing in Manipur is we are seeing slight different pattern than the communal clashes we had seen in the past. See, Northeast is not strange to communal, not a stranger to communal clashes. There were numerous communal clashes took place in various northeastern states, including in Manipur. But during those clashes, the confrontations were largely between the civil groups. It was the community clashes. Those conflicts were between the communities largely. But this time, the political forces as well as some criminal militant elements have also entered into this complex situation. And then you have to see how it was built up. Constant hate mongering has totally polarized the society. The level of parochialism we are seeing this time, we had never seen. I personally had covered several ethnic clashes right from the beginning of Naga Kuki clashes. Even during those times, the community leaders from both the sides were talking about the need for peace to coexist harmoniously. And then both sides were reaching out to each other. But this time, those kind of bipartisan approach is not seen. There are complete segregation of population and the political leaderships, particularly the ruling dispensation. Instead of working as a bridge, they are actually widening the gap between the two communities. Yeah, and what today we see in Manipur is actually the reflective of what we see across the India. This identity politics, hate politics, this needs to be stopped somewhere, because these are actually poisoning the minds of society. Now, as I was saying, the new trend which is emerging in this conflict. Another very unfortunate trend we have seen this time is that weaponizing women's body to take revenge on the other community. This kind of in Northeast, as I said, we have seen many ethnic clashes, violence, but never been women women were being used as a weapon to score points on the other. This is, in fact, Northeast all these years where the communities in Northeast all these were at the receiving end of atrocities against women allegedly perpetrated by the security forces. But this time, the communities in the Northeast who had earlier taken moral high ground against this kind of atrocities are committing this kind of atrocities. So why this, why the society is degenerating? What is the reason? This needs, better, understanding of the conflict.
Absolutely.
The way the minds of the people are poisoned through, fake videos, fake narratives. This is actually aggravating the problem, and the social media is working as a force multiplier. And this tutu meme between Biren Singh and Zoramthanga is one example how our political leaderships are always, will look for an opportunity to play identity card. And other day when Zoramthanga participated in this thing solidarity meeting, solidarity march in Aizawl, some very abusive language was used against his, not by him but those who were in the rally. Very abusive slogans, posterings were made against Zoramthanga's counter, Manipur counter. But that is also not something need to be condoned. Need to be condemned.
Absolutely. I completely agree with you, Sameer, there. I have also been joined by Professor Prasenjit Biswas, who's a professor of philosophy, Northeastern Hill University, Shillong. Sir, welcome to News9 Live. I'll come to you in a bit, sir. First, I'll go to Dr. Haukip, and then we'll also show our viewers about, how this crisis in Manipur is also playing out in Delhi, where the sanctum sanctorum of Indian democracy is paralyzed because no common path is being able to come out between the opposition and the ruling party to discuss what is happening in the state of Manipur. Dr. Haukip, as I asked Sameer, how do you see the thing moving forward? Because there's hardening of stand from both sides. The government is reaching out to kuki side, to meitei side, and trying to figure out a formula, but it is not finding any kind of resonance on the ground. How do you see the way forward? Because the chief minister, by making this statement, has once again clearly said that they are completely against this demand. Forget separate state; they are against even for separate administration.
How to bring peace in Manipur in your channel for the last almost 3 months now. I've been, very regular initiative, and during those times we were talking about how, politically the Manipur government could initiate certain, accommodations to the demands of the cookies, because has been a cookie insurgency for the last 30 years, and we all know well that they have been, struggling for a kind of a cookie homeland. But when the talks were initiated, then there were a kind of information that has been given to them, or that has been known to us, that the territorial integrity of Manipur has to be preserved, and within that, like in Assam, a kind of Bodoland Territorial Council can be, accommodated within the territory of Manipur. Of course, talks has been going on, but those kind of demand has been lowered, and lastly, nothing has been coming out of the talks, and that was also, simultaneously. There is a kind of a political environment where the chief minister also has been trying to otherize the Kuki communities in the last 6 years. That these are people mostly from Myanmar coming and planting poppy, and destruction of forests and environments happening in Manipur. All sorts of othering has been happening for the last many years, and you can see that in the last 1 year, there are several activists or people who have been interacting with the chief minister and others, putting out certain cookie perspective. They have been put behind bars. Many of them we have put behind bars, and during this time of crisis, there is another news that someone who has been put behind bar has been, has been beaten to death by a mob because he has taken a stance which which is against the view of the majority community. So such things are happening in Manipur, even not just putting behind bars, but people have paid their life with those kind of democratic exercise that they have been performing in social media. So with this kind of environment, I think there is nothing that we can discuss further here. In the last 3 months, people have hardened stance, and eventually 2 weeks back, the Kuki MP Manipur has clearly pointed out that we demand a separate state, and that was followed 2 days after by ITLF of Susanpur saying that if we are not able to get a separate state, then we should be given a union territory with a legislature. So that's the outcome. Have we engaged this conflict in the first week of May itself, then politically, some offer should have been given to the cookies that we should quickly resolve this crisis politically, and you can be given certain autonomy within the state of Manipur, like like we have seen in Assam. So that kind of offer is not there from the chief minister or any intellectuals within the state of Manipur. So this conflict continues, and eventually we have arrived at a point where now we are standing where the cookies would not like to be a part of the state of Manipur. They would like to be separated. They would like to be divided from the state of Manipur. Looking into how the police has been one of the perpetrators of this violence, as we have seen in many videos, and they have been the chief minister and many agencies of the state has been a part of this problem itself. So how can the cookies trust the state government as well as the state machineries once again? So it's not possible. Things could have been resolved had the home ministry and others quickly reacted to this conflict and resolved in the first week itself. That didn't happen. Now it's going to be 3 months, and all the front lines, all the border lines, the imaginary political boundaries between the Imphal Valley and the hills are already drawn, and people cannot move between the valley and the hills. So that's clear. And if this is continuing, then the casualty, the kind of humanitarian crisis will increase, and more hardening of stance, more division, more kind of hatred would be spread out in social media and other platforms. And yeah, of course, unlike the past, the civil society organizations are quite weakened, or at base they have become the frontal organizations of certain certain groups or individuals who are powerful enough. So we can't trust the civil society organizations, and any talk with the value-based organizations or government would be regarded as a traitor by the cookies themselves. So any cookie who talks with the Manipur government or any civil society organizations will be branded as traitor now. So there's the kind of environment that we have in Manipur. So it's a very unfortunate situation. Things could have been solved earlier, as we have pleaded repeatedly in different national media about imposing president's rule or even removing the chief minister. Those are not taken by the central leadership, and this is the price that we are paying. And it is all about human tragedy unfolding day by day. And right now we can see that many villages has been attacked in Jerusalempur now by the valley-based so-called village defense volunteers and others. So this is quite unfortunate, and the central leadership has to look into it and try to take concrete measures to put an end to the violence and have some political solutions to both the communities. I don't say that the cookies should have only the political solution. So we have to look into the demands by the meiteis also. What is their demand? How could the scheduled tribe demand could be accommodated or not accommodated within the framework of the Indian Constitution? So we have to seriously look into it. And despite that, the current regime is not willing to discuss in the parliament also. They are avoiding, even when the European Parliament is discussing about the situation in Manipur, or Parliament is avoiding discussion on Manipur. So this is a sad story about the political party and the political system that we have in India.
Absolutely. Professor Prasenjit, I'll first go to you, and then I'll go to take our viewers and all of you to what is happening in the parliament, where today is perhaps the 6th or 7th day and no meaningful business has been transacted. There's a logjam, Professor, at the center, where the BJP says that, that the Prime Minister has made a statement, they're ready to discuss, but they're ready to discuss under one particular rule. The opposition is saying that we want a discussion under Section 267, which allows for a proper, in-depth, longer duration of discussion on what is happening in Manipur and then voting. So there's a logjam over that. They're also demanding Prime Minister to speak. The same kind of logjam, Professor, is also happening, playing out in the state of Manipur, where yesterday the Chief Minister said and made quite a politically dramatic statement where he says not an inch of land will be separated from Manipur till the last drop of blood runs in my veins. How do you see the situation? I know it's a cliche. I completely agree with Dr. Haukip. We must have asked this question at least hundreds of times till now. But how do we move forward, Professor? Or are we going to see another deadlock for another couple of months before everyone is fatigued out and only then they move forward?
No, the fatigue will not be coming so soon because it's a question of survival, it's a question of dignity. Now you see, central government took a lot of initiative to settle the issues of the tribals of Manipur. And central government was ready to grant them certain amount of autonomy and certain other kinds of concessions. Now the meitei groups who were not in talks with government, and also government couldn't really strike up a good dialogue with them, I would say that way, actually created a kind of a mental difference. And when mental difference is too strong, how can you keep the land integrated? People have already erected artificial boundaries, borders, and they have separated from each other, and they have created ghettos, as you have rightly pointed out. And then right at the center of the state does not have any control on armed vigilantes. There is hardly any recovery of the looted arms from the police armory in Imphal. And you can see that along with some of the state polices, the Vigilante group are moving together, especially in yesterday's incident that has happened in certain kuki areas. So you can see that, things are not in the right shape. So therefore, it's not a question of land alone. It's a question of internal peace. It's a question of internal stability. How that stability will come, the Chief Minister should reflect on that. Our stability will not come by othering, by stereotyping, by blaming. But stability can come by loving, caring, showing empathy, doing more care work on the ground, providing relief and rescue, bringing back people from the disturbed areas to their homes and ensuring their security and safety. So something is going terribly wrong in the very state of Manipur when we start talking in terms of another kind of a battle line drawn in terms of land or in terms of culture or in terms of some other markers. So this particular approach needs to be shunned in order to build up a kind of a democratic sense, in order to make it possible to have a civilized dialogue between groups who may be torn apart, but I'm sure the groups will come for a dialogue. The second important thing that Shamir Dada was speaking about a few minutes back is weaponizing women's body. Now this is something that is ethically not possible to think about. So you can weaponize women's body, you can weaponize land, you can weaponize identity, you can weaponize language, you can weaponize the slightest difference that you have between one community and another community. Now this kind of an all-out racial process of othering, I would say, combined with sexual violence is unprecedented. And if land is added to that, and there is a dispute over land, it's very easy to conflagrate the situation and create another tinderbox out of it. So I'm not very sure what is happening in Manipur, who is trying to save whom, who is trying to destroy whom, and you see all kinds of things are coming. The hill areas, 66,000 square kilometers of hill areas have been handed over for palm oil cultivation. There is a news item today. There is a news item about the possibility of chromite mining, the possibility of mining oil by displacing tribals. Now all this is very, very alarming. This is not a good signal at all. Things are not, good tidings are not coming from anywhere at this point of time for Manipur. And to top it all, if the parliament is not able to discuss, I think Manipur is in a big crisis, and it's a national crisis. If I would go on to say that it's a man-made national disaster. So nation really has to address this. The whole nation wants that the parliament should suspend all other business and discuss this at the top priority, then get back to business. And the lost days can be added. Beyond mid of September, it can be recovered by way of introducing Manipur issue as a point of discussion, and probably the leader of the country, has this say, which if he says something which he has said earlier outside the parliament, the honorable prime minister can make a statement inside the parliament that may help resolving the situation, that may bring back a certain kind of a calm, a certain tranquility. It can inspire people to keep peace. So all that is very much needed and looked up to. I don't know when such things will happen, but certainly people of this country is waiting with breathless expectation that the stalemate goes away from the parliament and opposition and ruling party come together on this grave issue of Manipur, which will empower the people of Manipur to settle the matter in a peaceful way and no longer with arms and artificial barricades and blockades and all those kinds of things. So that is what is most warranted.
Couldn't agree more with you, Professor. Couldn't agree more with you. There are certain important news as well. What we have been given to understand is that Team of India Alliance, it's a alliance of opposition parties, their member of parliaments are going to visit Manipur on 29th and 30th of July. This is the plan. I think they would also wait for the security clearance because we all know what happened during Rahul Gandhi's visit. But first I would like to take our viewers to the parliament where the opposition parties today wear black attire to protest against what is happening in the state of Manipur and why the government is not speaking on it. And we also have sound bites of Congress President Mallikarjun Kharge. We have sound bites of Gaurav Gogoi. We have sound bites of Kaushal Kishore, Debashri Chaudhary, ministers in the cabinet, and then we'll resume our discussion.
मोदी जी तुम कहाँ छुपे हो? कहाँ छुपे हो? कहाँ छुपे हो? मोदी जी तुम कहाँ छुपे हो? कहाँ छुपे हो? कहाँ छुपे हो? सदन में आके जवाब दो। जवाब दो, जवाब दो, जवाब दो। हिंसा पे जवाब दो। जवाब दो, जवाब दो। हत्याओं पे जवाब दो। जवाब दो, जवाब दो। दरिंदगी पे जवाब दो। जवाब दो, जवाब चाहो। प्रधानमंत्री शर्म करो। शर्म करो, शर्म करो। प्रधानमंत्री शर्म करो। शर्म करो, शर्म करो। मणिपुर पे चर्चा हो। प्रधानमंत्री सदन में आओ। सदन में आओ, सदन में आओ। मणिपुर पे चर्चा हो। सदन में आओ, सदन में आओ। प्रधानमंत्री सदन में आओ। सदन में आओ। दो जवाब दो, जवाब दो। सदन में आके जवाब दो। जवाब दो, जवाब दो। मणिपुर देना होगा, देना होगा। जवाब तुमको देना होगा। देना होगा, देना होगा। वरना गद्दी छोड़ना होगा। छोड़ना होगा, छोड़ना होगा। वरना गद्दी छोड़ना होगा। छोड़ना होगा, छोड़ना होगा। चर्चा हो भाई, चर्चा हो।
रूलिंग पार्टी कभी नहीं करती क्योंकि दे ब्लेम अस ऑलवेज अपोजिशन गड़बड़ कर रही, सुनना नहीं चाहती जी। लेकिन अब वो खुद गड़बड़ करके हमारा मुंह बंद करना चाहती है। और एक तो पहले सिस्टमेटिकली चर्चा करने के लिए अब क्या कहूँ, मैं भी बहुत देखा हूँ, मुझे भी थोड़ा अनुभव है। लेकिन प्राइम मिनिस्टर इधर हाउस चल रहा है और हम डिमांड कर रहे हैं वो खुद आके एक स्टेटमेंट देने के लिए पूछ रहे हैं तो दे रहे नहीं। और उधर जाके राजस्थान में भाषण कर रहे हैं, पॉलिटिकल भाषण कर रहे हैं और इलेक्शन का चुनाव की बात कर रहे हैं। और यहाँ पर आके अगर उनको, जब आप राजस्थान में जा सकते हो यहाँ पर पार्लियामेंट छोड़ के, क्या यहाँ आधा घंटा आके आप अपना स्टेटमेंट देकर जा नहीं सकते? कि इट मीन्स दैट ही हैज नो इंटरेस्ट, ही हैज नो फेथ इन डेमोक्रेसी and he don't want to protect democracy and constitution, and he is disrespecting the parliament and also the disrespecting all MPs. Therefore we have to fight.
देखिए, प्रधानमंत्री मणिपुर के लोगों के घाव पर नमक छिड़क रहे हैं। जिस समय हम बोल रहे हैं कि वो मणिपुर जाके देश की व्यवस्था को संभाले, राष्ट्र सुरक्षा के हित में काम करे, वो यहाँ पे भाषणबाजी में लगे हुए हैं। तो इसी से साफ जाहिर होता है कि भारत के इतिहास में हमें पहली बार एक ऐसा प्रधानमंत्री मिल रहा है जब देश के किसी कोने में आग लगी हुई है तो वो देश के राजधानी में अपने ही भाषण में मग्न हो चुके हैं।
उनकी तपस्या की ताकत और परिश्रम के परिणाम ने देश के आन बान शान को, देश की तरक्की को चार चांद लगाया है। ये बात न केवल खुद जो लोग काले जादू का प्रहार कर रहे हैं वो भी जानते हैं ये बात, और इसलिए इस कुनबे के काले जादू का वार भी या काले जादू का मंत्र भी छू मंत्र होगा, आप देख लीजिएगा। आज जो है वो इनकी दिक्कत ये नहीं है। आपको याद होगा कि 2018 में चुनाव से पहले सड़क से पहले उन्होंने संसद में चुनावी रिहर्सल शुरू कर दी थी और नो कॉन्फिडेंस मोशन लाए थे। क्या शुरू हुआ था? मोदी जी को जनता ने 2014 में 283-84 सीटें दी थी, और उसके बाद जो है वो जब इनका रिहर्सल हुआ और नो कॉन्फिडेंस ये बुरी तरह से मुंह की खानी पड़ी लेकिन जनता ने 283 से 353-54 सीटें दी। इस बार जो है वो 24 के चुनाव में 440 का झटका इनको लगने वाला है, ये समझ लें।
विपक्ष लोकसभा में आके चर्चा नहीं कर रहा, सदन में आके चर्चा करोगे, सवाल सदन में आकर के पूछोगे तभी तो कोई जवाब देगा। चर्चा से विपक्ष क्यों कतराने का काम कर रहा? रही काले कपड़े पहनने की बात, तो शनि देव का कुछ उनके ऊपर असर विपक्ष पे आ गया है, जिसकी वजह से वो काले कपड़े पहन के आ रहे हैं। और जब शनि का किसी के ऊपर प्रकोप हो जाता है तो अच्छी बात वो सोच नहीं पाता है। विपक्ष आज इसी भूमिका में है।
विपक्षी पूरा के पूरा बिखरे हुए हैं, ना दर्शन है ना इनका कोई सही दिशा है। मणिपुर जल रहे ये सही बात है, लेकिन विपक्ष के मतलब सरकार के पक्ष से हमारी गृह मंत्री और हमारी प्रतिरक्षा मंत्री दोनों ने बार बार बोल दिया, सदन की हमारी जो नेता है उन्होंने बोल दिया है कि सरकार सारी तरह के आलोचना के लिए सम्मत है, लेकिन वो सम्मति से नहीं जाने वाला है। क्यों नहीं जाने वाला है? सिर्फ मणिपुर जल रहे ऐसा नहीं है, पश्चिम बंगला भी जल रहे, ऐसे राजस्थान भी जल रहे। क्यों जल रहे? जहाँ महिलाओं का बलात्कार हो रहे, जनजाति महिलाओं के साथ अन्याय हो रहे, वहाँ पे कोई नहीं जाना चाहते। ये लोग जानते हैं दुष्कर्म करने वाले लोग जो है, इनको मदद देने वाला लोग यही है। ये सिर्फ संसद को बिखर के रखना चाहते हैं और जनता को दृष्टि घुमाने का कोशिश में है।
Mr. Purkayast, you saw that, while on one hand there's hardening of stand here in the state of Manipur, but you heard all the sound bites and all. There's a big hardening of stand as far as the ruling dispensation, which is the BJP-led NDA government, and also the Congress-led India, if I may say so, right now, because this is the acronym of the new collection of parties. Do you see something similar which is being played out in the state of Manipur being played out at the central level, where nobody would want to discuss what is happening in Manipur or reach out to Manipur, provide a healing touch?
Yeah, Congress party has demanded special section of Manipur Assembly. So we are yet to see any positive response from the ruling party to that. And forget about political, discussions among multi-party, all-party discussions. In Manipur, the BJP legislators of Delhi are not in talking terms with their own party legislators from kuki areas. So, and the BJP central leaderships till now couldn't arrange a single meeting of their legislature party where the Kuki and the Meitei side could sit together and discuss, the legislators. So, so this is the ground reality. Within the BJP, there are lots of differences. The BJP party in Delhi and Kuki areas are totally divided. And as for this thing, the central government, see, the Prime Minister must come out and talk on these issues, because there are this Manipur issue is not only law and order crisis. It is not only the failure of law and order agencies. It's also in a way a failure of India's foreign policy. See, when this Myanmar crisis started, and as I had mentioned, that many of us have written that unless and until this crisis is handled properly, the crisis within the Myanmar, India will face the brunt of it. And today it is facing. And instead of asking junta to apply some sort of restraint in atrocities committed against its own citizen, what India is doing? India is among the recent UN report had said, one UN agency report had said that India is among the five countries, along with Russia, China, Singapore, Thailand, which are arming military junta, and those arms junta will use against its citizen, and that will lead to further exodus of population from different countries. So in a way, it is also the failure of India's foreign policy.
Okay. Dr. Haukip, the group of MPs, India, which is also planning to visit Manipur, on 29th and 30th. This is what we have been given to understand. Do you see these visits making any kind of, or will help in dousing the fire which has engulfed Manipur, or do you think that these visits will further inflame the situation which is there?
I think for the last 2 months, the visits of politicians from New Delhi, it has been frequent, and I think it has been normalized to a large extent by now. And their visits has brought no political changes in the kind of situation that we have in Manipur. So further visits of parliamentarians and other political personalities, I think would hardly do anything in these situations, because the kind of work, the ground situations, the kind of abuse of human rights, they have been meticulously brought out by journalists and others. Clearly in the national media, so we all understand about the ground situation, and there are many, even international media that would be doing ground report and documentaries. They have contacted us, and they say they would do a complete ground report on both sides in the coming days. So all these kind of visits, reports will be there, but what we need is a kind of assurance or a kind of intervention from the current regime in Delhi. The Prime Minister, the Home Minister has to decide on something about the future of this state. Unless that intervention is there, I think no solutions would come out. The opposition and others may talk about certain things, but it is the government that has to take action. It has the government that has to contact the chief minister to do or to maintain certain law and order, or to restrain from using the police and other military in favor of a certain community. Or unless that kind of instructions is particularly there, I think nothing is going to change on the ground. And for a lasting peace, I think there is a kind of political intervention needed to put a healing touch to this state, whether it will be divided or whether it would be, in its present form. There is a different thing. There is something that has to be decided in future through dialogue. But the initiative has to come from the prime minister. He has to do something, and he is unable to do anything till now. It was because of that viral video that he has spoken up a few days later. But now what he did is not just a vote. Now what he did is an action. He should force the state administration to do something, because for the last 3 months, the central government has been unwilling to impose president's role. The government is unwilling to change the chief minister's seat to someone else. So what is there? What is left? That has to be explored, and then now what we left is the political solution that has to be arrived at, and strict implementation of impartial police as well as state administrators. That is what we need, and strict action should be taken whoever has further committed violence in the way of attacking the opponents or creating law and order situation in the state. That has to be enforced somehow. That instruction has to come from New Delhi, from the Home Minister or from the Prime Minister.
So, the political parties are when Rahul Gandhi came, he didn't respond to any of the political questions. He said that he has come here to make sure that the peace returns to the state of Manipur. And, then he was attacked by the BJP saying that during their government, a lot of bloodshed happened in Manipur and other northeastern state. And now there's a deadlock. Now the MPs of India want to come and visit the state of Manipur. Do you see any hope from these visits, or you feel that what should be the engagement done by political parties, which would result in some sort of peace returning back, peace and normalcy returning back to the state of Manipur, sir? It seems that there is some sort of technical glitch in the line of Professor Prasenjit. I'll come back to Professor, but let's go and listen to the soundbite of Law Minister, Union Law Minister Mallikarjun I beg your pardon, Arjun Ram Meghwal, and also Foreign Minister, External Affairs Minister S. Jaishankar.
देखिए, विपक्ष का काम है जी, वो करें, लेकिन देश बहुत तेजी से तरक्की कर रहा है, फिर भी उनको पसंद नहीं आ रहा है, या तो उनके समझ में नहीं आ रहा है कि किस तरह से जो प्रधानमंत्री मोदी जी की जो पॉपुलैरिटी बढ़ रही है, उसको वो कुछ भी करें, कोई फर्क मुझे तो लगता पड़ने वाला नहीं है, क्योंकि जो प्रधानमंत्री जी की जो सोच है देश को आगे बढ़ाने की, वो इतनी आगे की सोचते हैं कि जैसे अभी 2047 तक का विकसित भारत बनाने का सपना सोचा है, क्या वो रोकना चाहते हैं क्या? काले कपड़े पहन करके विकसित भारत के दृश्य को रोकना चाहते हैं क्या? क्या चाहते हैं वो?
I gave a suo motu statement today in the Rajya Sabha because we felt that in the last few months there had been enormous achievements in foreign policy, and some of the achievements, if I were to spell out, for example, for 40 years we have been trying to get a GE aircraft engine from the United States. Thanks to the Prime Minister's visit, we succeeded in doing so. You all know today how important semiconductors is, how we are putting really big energy, big effort into a semiconductor mission, because that is what will make India strong for the future. Now, 3 very important American companies made commitments to invest in centers in India during Prime Minister's visit. And we saw Google, for example, decided that its global fintech center would be in India. Now, I can give you many other examples in different countries. So, but our effort was today to say, look, the country has progressed. Our foreign policy is delivering for the people of India, for the national good of India. So we thought at least on this issue that the opposition would put its political differences aside, would listen to it with an open mind, would put national interest first. If you claim to be India and you're not prepared to listen to Indian national interest, what kind of India are you? I mean, you are an India which is prepared to sacrifice national interest. That is not India to me. So I feel it's very unfortunate today that foreign policy, which has long been an issue where different political parties have come together, they may disagree on other things. It is one area where by and large there has been national consensus, national unity. There should be appreciation. There should be appreciation. If Prime Minister today is honored across the world, and I spelled that out, that he got, the highest, ever award that France gives. He's the first Indian Prime Minister to get it. Or Papua New Guinea or Fiji. So if he had the honor of addressing the Congress he's the only Prime Minister of India who's addressed Congress twice. So, it's one thing to have politics. I have no problem with that. I'm also in politics. But I think at times on certain issues, people should put politics aside, should think about the country, should be prepared to listen to where we have made progress, because this is good for the country. It's not just an achievement of a government, it's an achievement of a country. When our Prime Minister or our President, I mentioned, President was given, the highest award in Suriname. That if you cannot respect the president, you cannot respect the vice president, you cannot respect the prime minister, you will not allow a foreign minister to make his statement to inform the house, then I think it's a very sorry state of affairs, and it's really very, very unfortunate how strongly and how wrongly partisan politics is pursued.
Professor Prasenjit, I was asking you this question, that given the stalemate that we are witnessing in the parliament, given the stalemate that is there in the state, and not much political movement is happening other than hardening of stance and all. How do you view this visit? And according to you, what should be the priorities of political parties, national political parties, to see to it that some sort of normalcy returns to Manipur, where atmosphere conducive enough to be formed, where some sort of political dialogue can take place?
Security should be the top priority. Right now, when we are talking, the border town of More is under siege. Manipur police and commandos along with the vigilantes are attacking central part of More. They are arresting the civilians, and there is a huge crisis going on in More right now. So any parliamentary delegation going there has to see that an impartial, neutral security force is at work. There is a big problem now. Wherever the state police is operating, that is causing a huge crisis, huge fear among the other community. So why not central forces are taking over? That part, parliamentary delegation, be it from the opposition, be it from the ruling party, have to see this is primarily urgent at this point of time. That security should not be disturbed by the security forces. Security forces are there to reinforce people's security. That should not get disturbed. So be it Manipuri women coming and protesting against Assam Rifles, be it Kuki people right now feeling threatened by Manipur police, this kind of security stalemate should go completely from Manipur. That shows a certain facet of state losing its impartiality, neutrality, its commitment to protect the right of life of people. And this is something that can come back if a strong parliamentary team visits and raises issues. They are meant to raise such issues. They are meant to highlight what is happening at the ground level, because they are connected to the ground, elected representatives. So their visits are absolutely needed. It should not be just a formal ceremonial visit, but the visit must really take care of those aspects which otherwise will not come in the media. And it should really carry the voices of the victim, even the voices who are planning an attack. What is happening exactly in the mental scape of Manipur has to really come out in the form of the political dialogue, and that's when the political dialogue can happen. The dialogue about peace, dialogue about security should start from the hearts of every citizen, and the hearts of every citizen should be brought out in the open by our political representative. That is the task of this kind of a delegated visit that parliamentary teams can do, can increase the confidence, can bring back some amount of trust, can allow people to speak up if there is any issues of fear. Now people are suppressed, internet is cut down, information is not flowing. So you can see this situation which is almost strangulation mixed with fear here and there, attack and counter-attack here and there. That situation of Manipur, where there is an absolute phobic situation, that needs to be, that needs to be cleansed, that needs to be made normal, and that can happen to this kind of parliamentary delegations.
Okay, that's very well put, Professor. Let's also go and have a look at the ground report filed by our correspondent who's there in the state of Manipur, the correspondent Jitendra Sharma, who is there in Manipur, and he's presenting all the facets of the violence which is going on and how people are struggling to survive to tell the tale the next day.
ठीक मेरे बाएं तरफ आप देख सकते हैं यहाँ पर बाकायदा पुलिस ने अपना एक बंकर बनाया हुआ है, बड़ी संख्या में और पुलिस बल तैनात है, और चारों तरफ आपको यहाँ धान के खेत दिखाई देंगे, जहाँ पर ये जो किसान है विष्णुपुरा इलाके के, वो यहाँ पर अपने खेतों के अंदर खेती करने आते हैं। लेकिन ये जो खेती है इन धान के खेत में, वो दरअसल पुलिस के साए में हो रही है, यानी कि पुलिस सुरक्षा के साए में की जा रही है। ठीक सामने देखिए किसान इस वक्त वो खेती कर रहा है, और ठीक सामने देखिए किस तरीके से जो मणिपुर पुलिस और इसके अलावा IRB यानी कि के जो जवान हैं इंडियन रिजर्व बटालियन के, वो इस वक्त आपको यहाँ पर उनकी सुरक्षा में तैनात यहाँ पर दिखाई देंगे। तो यानी कि जो किसान है वो पुलिस सुरक्षा के बीच इस वक्त मणिपुर में खेती करने के लिए मजबूर है। इसके पीछे की वजह भी आपको बताते हैं। ठीक सामने आप देखिए वो जो पहाड़ी आप देख रहे हैं, दरअसल उस पहाड़ी के ऊपर विरोधी गुट यानी कि कुकीज ने अपने बंकर बनाए हुए हैं। और इस वक्त जहां मैं मौजूद हूं, ये जो आप जमीन देख रहे हैं जहां पर चारों तरफ आप ये धान के खेत देख रहे हैं, दरअसल ये मेइतेई का इलाका है। यानी कि मेइतेई समाज जो है वो यहाँ खेती करने के लिए आता है और उनको डर है कि जो विरोधी गुट है उनका जो कुकी है उन्होंने ऊपर पहाड़ों के ऊपर बंकर बनाए हैं और जैसे ही वो खेती करने यहाँ पर आएंगे तो उनके ऊपर गोलियां चलाई जाएंगी। तो इसके अलावा IRB के जो जवान है हमारे साथ मौजूद है। सर ये बताइए आप लोगों की ड्यूटी कब से यहाँ पर?
अभी जो 1 महीना अभी जो होने वाला है।
अच्छा।
लगभग वो जो 20 दिन ऐसा ही हुए, लेकिन हमारे आने से पहले वो जो पुलिस का जो है ना, उन लोगों को तो 3 महीना अभी कंप्लीट होने वाला है।
तो ये देखिए किस तरीके से जो पुलिस के जवान हैं, मणिपुर पुलिस और इसके अलावा जो IRB के जवान हैं वो यहाँ पर सिक्योरिटी करते हुए साफ तौर पर देखे जा सकते हैं। ये छोटा सा इन्होंने अपना एक बंकर बनाया हुआ है और इसी बंकर के अंदर बैठकर ये लोग 24 घंटे यहाँ पर जो खेतों में काम कर रहे किसान हैं उनकी सिक्योरिटी करते हैं। ये ठीक सामने देखिए, सामने पहाड़ी है और ये ठीक इसी जगह बैठकर पुलिसकर्मी उस पहाड़ी के ऊपर नजर भी रखते हैं। मैं चाहूंगा कैमरामैन अमित बालियान आपको तस्वीरें ठीक सामने से दिखाएं। ये देखिए किस तरीके से सामने पहाड़ है, इधर से नजर रखी जाती है। पहाड़ पर जो बंकर बने हुए हैं जो विरोधी गुट है मेइतेई के उनके, और उसके बाद यहाँ से तमाम जो किसान जब चले जाते हैं तो उसके बावजूद यहाँ पर पुलिस 24 घंटे इस बंकर के अंदर तैनात रहती है। तो ये जो हालात इस वक्त बने हुए हैं मणिपुर के, ये अपने आप में बताने के लिए काफी है कि जो स्थिति है वो यहाँ पर सुधरने में या फिर कहें जो जिंदगी है सामान्य होने में अभी एक लंबा वक्त यहां पर लग सकता है।
China won't let us rest easy on our borders, but they will keep flooding our markets. What does Xi Jinping really want?
I think he wants the Indian market, no doubt about it. It's really a matter of showing their dominance.
India's great Chinese conundrum.
Nobody can contain it. Not the United States, not China, not anybody else.
Frenemies. Streaming now.
मैं इमरान अहमद खान नियाजी सबके दिल से हल्फ उठाता हूँ।
When Imran Khan came initially into politics, he thought his personal popularity would be sufficient for him. It didn't happen.
The retired military generals are openly saying that Imran Khan is a better choice.
Imran Khan may have bitten a bit too much, more than what he can chew.
Implosion. This and more, streaming on world's first news OTT, News9 Plus. Download now.
He thought he could outlast us. And 1 year later, the evidence is right here in this room.
Who will blink first?
So far from preventing the expansion of NATO, Russian actions have actually resulted in the expansion of NATO.
It's a mess for Russia and it's a mess for the Western world, for NATO and the United States.
Putin is a dictator, and if he loses, that means the end of his regime, and probably of him personally. So he has to keep going.
Year 2, no end in sight. Streaming now.
With all this gear, you must be wondering if I'm climbing a mountain. Well, let me give you a wider look of this place. This is Asia's largest mountain of shame.
A mountain of waste, almost the height of the Qutub Minar.
When you enter capital cities of some of the biggest countries in the world, you don't have 3 garbage mountains waiting to welcome you depending on whichever side of the city you enter from.
The thing is that a lot of times we talk about landfills only when there's a fire at the landfill. You need to understand that a landfill is at fire almost throughout the year. It's only when the firefighters are not able to douse the fire is when it actually catches the nation's attention, the city's attention, or media attention.
The towering landfills, worsen one of Delhi's biggest problems: pollution.
यहाँ पर आप रात को आओ, दिन में आओ, आप 1 घंटे बैठ नहीं सकते बाहर। इतनी धूल, प्रदूषण, महक, आप खाना भी नहीं खा सकते बाहर बैठ के।
Life around the landfill is a curse.
हमारे घर में जो बड़े हैं उन्हें अस्थमा के वो पेशेंट है, आए दिन उनको नेबुलाइजर लगाना पड़ता है।
डॉक्टर ने भी मुझे ये चीज बोला कि यहाँ का एरिया छोड़ के कहीं और चाहिए।
Delhi's garbage mountains are now a fetid symbol of the national capital's trash problem. The question is, who is to be blamed? Watch Delhi's Garbage Mountains. Streaming on News9 Plus for the Genflix.
There is gender disparity as far as the live donation in our country is concerned.
The number of donors, live donors, are, I would say, about 65% would be women. Men as recipients would be about 75 to 80%.
Taking a vital organ from a breadwinner is something which threatens the entire family.
I'll sacrifice myself and let he be strong. I'll take all the pain.